Mm.
So.
Yeah, it'll be much easier when we can all get back to what we were doing.
It definitely will, I'm sure, for everybody.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm sure for everybody. So. I don't know if this is gonna help. A little bit more light. A little bit, maybe. So again, for everyone who's here, like I said, we won't start till 7, but we are waiting for a third member so we can have a quorum. And Dinus, you're in the office too, right? Or
No,
I am.
yeah.
You can't tear me from this place.
actually, that's a background that he saved.
I was good. Like I was just looking. You can usually tell the background because there's like a little edge. You know, there's a little pixelated edge between people and their Zoom backgrounds. So I don't see that for Dinus. So I was thinking maybe
It's
the
a
real
fake background, but I'm really here.
Oh yeah, you know what? I can just see it. It just like on top of your ear. I think you can just see like a little.
Trying to.
As I see it, we could watch the Yankees win until Mark gets here.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Gary.
I thought it was a cardboard cutout.
No, I do. I have that there for work because I
look
work.
at that. Wow. Yeah, the new customization. You get a mask with a logo on it, and now you can get a Zoom background.
Yep.
Makes you feel better.
But you still can't find Clorox wipes in the store.
True. So, well, again, it is 7 o'clock. There's 2 commission members that are here, myself, Sharon Fox, and Michael Neustadt. But we need a third. We understand there is a third on his way. So. So Alice, did you guys have any trouble? I heard Zoom wasn't functioning 100% today.
There was an update, but this is the only Zoom meeting I've done so far today.
I lost all internet for a little while during the storm.
Oh, I
But
lost
I think that was Spectrum, but it came back within 10 minutes.
Wow, you're fortunate. I have one. I didn't get my internet back until Friday.
Oh, I'm just talking
Sharon,
about the
can
storm.
you hear me?
I can now.
It's Dave Frankel. Good. Good.
Hi, Dave. Well, welcome.
Hi there.
You are number 3.
Oh, well, stop
Good.
texting Mark then.
Okay. Hey, well, if Mark can join, that is great. I know there's lots going on, but we have 3, and so that qualifies as a quorum. So let me ask Allison and Alice, are you guys ready in the technology department here?
We are streaming
Looks
and
like it.
recording.
All right. Okay. Well, with that, then I said it is just a few minutes after 7. I'd like to call to order a regular meeting of the Brookfield Inland Wetlands Commission. Today is Monday, the 24th of August in the year 2020. My name is Sharon Fox. I act as the chairman of the commission. With me also is Mr. Michael Neustadt, who is a regular member, and Mr. Dave Frankel, who is an alternate. So there are 3 of us. So all of us will be voting members this evening. Also with us is Alice Dew, who is our Wetlands Enforcement Officer, and Allison Kennedy, who is our recording secretary. So before we get going, I want to be a big thank you to Alice, and Allison, I'm sure you played a role, and also Diane, because 2 weeks ago, everybody lost power and most people lost the internet. So there was a lot of mad scrambles, and I know you guys did a number of heroics, to get in contact with the applicants, and let them know that come Friday, at least for us anyways, no one was sure we were going to have power on Monday. So again, I appreciate that. And that also goes to everyone that she spoke to. I understand everybody was very understood our situation and, was very, very helpful in the whole matter. So just a big thank you to everybody. Hard to imagine in 2 years you lose power twice for a week. Anyways, also on a membership note, I got an email today, and Diane Eng was also copied, from Margaret Myers, who has indicated that she is unable to continue her membership on the commission. So I know I and also Diane encouraged her, if that was her strong feeling, that the only way to truly do that is to contact the town clerk. So we did get that back to Margaret. If that is the case, I just want to say thank you, Margaret, for being a part of the commission for the time that you could. So, and again, and thank you for letting us know. All right. Anything, Michael or Dave, anything you want to add to any of that?
No, I'm ready to go ahead.
Yes, it's a pleasure to know Margaret, and I wish her well with all her future endeavors.
Okay, great. Well, again, we're going to be on the lookout for Mark Mulvaney, who we think will be joining us. So we'll be on the lookout for him. We don't know that. We understand his intent, but we haven't seen him yet. So, all right. So let's see. So we'll move on to our agenda today. I think I've got all that done. Okay, so on to wetlands enforcement.
All right. John Donovan is joining right now, just so you know.
Good.
Okay.
148 North Lakeshore, still no change to my knowledge. He was supposed to be served with a notice to quit on August 24th. If there wasn't any COVID extensions for evictions. So I'll find out about that from Tom Beecher. 58 Old Grace Bridge Road. Ari said that nothing has changed with the removal yet. He's still waiting to hear from EPA and DEP, but he has applied for a building permit to do the work on the exterior, and he needs that permit to talk to the EPA and DEP about capping some of the material underneath the drive around there. So that is a project still in the works. 83 Candlewood is still in court. And I did stop by today and talk to Brendan Southard at Earth Farm. And he said that actually everything looked like it had been cleaned up. He'd done all the work he had to remove the material from the town property, but he did have till September 1st. So he looks like he made the deadline.
Oh, well, great. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
So with that, do we need to clear that violation?
We just had that as a separate activity. It wasn't really a violation per se.
All right, thank you.
Mark is with us. Hi, Mark.
Hello, everyone. Sorry for the late.
Hi, Mark.
All right, so Mark Mulvaney is with us. He is our vice chairman. And did I see John Donovan?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So there are a total of 5 of us now. So for everyone listening in, so we have Mark, Michael, David, John, and myself. All right, thank you. All right, Alice, anything else?
That's it.
All right, anybody got anything for Alice? Anything you've seen in your drives around town? All righty. Okay, we have 2 public hearings this evening. I'm going to hold those. We're going to go through our old business and then our new business, and then we're going to come back to those. So the first thing we have is on old business. It's 19 Bonnie Road. Is someone in the meeting here for Bonnie
Yeah, that would
Road?
be me. I'm the property owner.
Okay, and just get your name and address, sir?
Gary Morrow, 19 Bonnie Road.
Okay. All right. I think Alice, this is the one we showed me. We were looking for some dimensions and measurements from the pool location to the tree line and the fence.
Right.
And we've got two PDFs here. There's pool location and the GIS. Which is the one? Somebody want to help me, or Mr. Morrow, maybe help us. Which is? Oh, that's a description. So that's not what. That's a description. That's a description.
My sound is terrible.
Okay, is that you, John?
Yeah, I just couldn't get my sound working. I'm fine. Yeah. I have to move to another location in my house because my internet isn't that strong.
Right.
So, we're here a bit blurry. Okay. I'll
Okay.
turn the light up.
All right. So I'm looking at the third attachment here, the silt fence pool location. Is this the one that's got the measurements on it? There we go.
I'm trying to look right now.
Mr. Morrow, if you feel free to help us out, which one has got the
Right here.
measurements on it?
That's okay. This one. Oh,
The third one does have some measurements on it, yes.
Right.
So it's showing 30 feet to the wood line, 75 feet to the wetlands. The deck's 24 feet off the house. The silt fence would be, 15 feet off the edge of the pool, so 15 feet from the wood line.
Sir, can we just get, again, just get your name and address for the record here?
Stephen Bologna, I'm 87 Obtuse Hill, Brookfield, but this is for Gary Morrow's 19 Bonnie Road.
Right.
And Sharon, the fourth document is the color photo, the GIS that you looked at.
Right. Okay. Let's just take a second to download here. That's the one we saw on Friday.
Yes.
Yes. All right. So for everyone, again, we're looking at that. I'm looking at that fourth document, which has got the 75 feet to the tree line or to the wetlands, 30 feet to the tree line, and the 12 by 20 deck. So can someone talk about this just for this is an above ground pool.
Yes.
And as I recall, there's really no excavation associated with this, right? You're just.
It's really pretty much flat. It's going to be pulling sod. We're going to cart the sod away.
Can you comment on, like I said, the backwash on this pool?
So they have a system that it runs through, in addition to the actual filter itself. So everything goes back into the pool, and it's like a collector tank for all that DE. But what you can also do is you can get a cartridge filter, and that would eliminate, any DE. A cartridge filter, doesn't use that powdered chemical.
Right.
So it's just, it's just like a cylinder or cartridge in the filter that you just hose off. So there's no chemicals involved in it at all.
DE is not a chemical though. By nature, it's diatomaceous earth. It's
yeah,
just
I mean,
powdered
you didn't want it running
natural.
to the wetlands.
What's that?
You just didn't want it running into the wetlands, right?
That's what we don't
Right.
want.
Yeah, but if you capture it, I have no problem with that.
So how does it get, what is the capture process? I mean, what is it that's going to keep any of this backwash or the cleaning that needs to be done at the pool from flowing into the wetlands?
It almost looks like another filter system, so that would, it'd run through the filter system. And then if you were to backwash, like say you would dump that in your yard normally, it goes into this tank, and off that tank, it runs back to the pool. So it's like a second cleaning of it, and it collects it.
And that's in the configuration for the property owner?
That's what our plan was once the wetlands issue came up. But also you could do a cartridge filter, which you wouldn't need that extra, that extra tank.
Well, seems to me that that can be an option. However, the property owner wants to deal with it. What I am interested in, and I said in the maintenance of this pool, that none of the pool water finds its way onto the yard into the wetlands.
Yeah, I mean, then the extra tank to bring it back into the pool would be the best way to do that.
Okay, well, again, if whatever, however many options there are, that's going to be of interest to me, that, because that isn't, that's something that we want to avoid.
Okay.
John, Dave, Michael, Mark?
Only,
I think you covered it.
only question, just to be clear with this option you're talking about, none of the pool water would be washed out overboard, out into the yard. Is that correct?
Yeah, it all cycles back into the pool itself. So
Okay, nothing comes
you
out.
would normally lose water, you wouldn't be losing that water.
Yeah, I think what we can do, in the motion to approve that is that we can make that, a stipulation of the approval. That the property owner has to confirm confirm the configuration that they've chosen, which will eliminate any, discharge into the wetlands.
I'm sorry, whoever's, mute on Laurel's iPad, thank you. Yeah, I'm fine, whether we list the two right in the stipulation now, or, whatever system doesn't backwash onto the ground is acceptable.
Yeah, I'm just thinking a stipulation might be a better way to do it, because it looks like, the applicant has some choices.
Right.
And it might be good. It might be good for us just to have which choice they made to.
Yeah, the one that backwashes into the pool itself, I actually prefer that because you use less water.
Sure. Like I said, I think all I'm talking about conceivably is, like I said, as a part of our approval process that that you provide us a confirmation, of the system that you chose.
Okay, that's fine.
So like a receipt from the builder or something?
Something like that, right?
Okay.
Right. Along with, a handwritten note that, this will prevent any water from the pool ending up on the yard and into the wetlands. So if someone wants to make a motion, again, it looks like let me get over to the right spot here. It looks like the right map that I would probably approve, but this is open for another opinion, is that fourth one, that 19 Bonnie Road site plan received 8/18/2020 PDF. That part is kind of nice, you guys. We don't have to refer to a map now necessarily. Well, we probably would with the map and a date. Now we can actually also refer to the file name.
Karen, I don't have the stuff in front of me, so I'm not going to make the motion on it.
I'm not sure I have the right one. I have one dated 8/17, and with the heading 19 Bonnie Road has the in color showing the dimensions.
Yeah, that's the
3
one.
pages.
That's the one I think, right? Would you agree, Alice? That's the one that's the most relevant?
You're muted, Alice.
I know, I'm on the phone with Diane Saivo trying to get her working. I'm sorry, the question was, the map? I would use, yes, the GIS.
The GIS. All right, well,
one, yeah.
all right, well then I'll make the motion then. I'll make a motion to approve the above ground pool at 19 Bonnie Road. It's application number W-20-29 as per a map, a GIS map.
I'll second.
With a printed date on it of 8/17/2020. The file name that we have is 19 Bonnie Road Site Plan received 8/18/20.pdf with all the normal stipulations, and also a stipulation that within 60 days, within 60 days, the applicant provides confirmation that the filtration system that they will choose will prevent any pool water from escaping to the yard and then escaping into the yard and then into the wetlands.
With all the usual stipulations.
Right. To be effective.
To be effective. Yeah. I don't know when it's effective now.
Yeah, to be effective the first day after publication.
I don't know when that is. I don't have my little piece of paper.
But it will be eventually. It will be published, and then it will be effective the day after.
It will be published soon.
Yep.
I'll second.
Right, do I have a second? All right, I think I got everything. I think 60 days. I hope that's enough time. If not, for the applicant, if that is not enough time, please let us know. I'm confident we can make some adjustments. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, let me call it then. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries 5-0. All righty, we're gonna move on to the next one. We got 4 Hollow Drive.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Enjoy the.
Oh, you're welcome. Good luck.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right, so the next one we have is 4 Hollow Drive. Let me just ask, Alice, you were trying to get the applicant on the phone or into the meeting?
Yeah, she's having a little trouble. I'm trying to work with her on that. So could we come back to that one?
Sure.
Okay.
All right, so we're just gonna jump past 4 Hollow Drive and come back because we're trying to get the applicant onto the Zoom meeting. All right, so that's going to take us to new business. We've got Carriage Homes on the Pond, W-20-33. This is a deep application for the use of pesticides in state waters. Is anyone here on the Zoom meeting for this application?
I am.
Can we just get your name and address, sir?
Yes, Robert Gambino, 4 Old Mill Road, New
Okay.
Milford, Connecticut, acting as agent for the association.
Okay, so let's see. You want to just tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, the association has a lot of Phragmites growing in the rear area of the pond that they're located on, and wanted to remove it to keep the flow going and also not to encourage beavers. We also have Phragmites going along a wooded edge of the easterly portion of the pond, and we want to remove that by chemicals.
All right. Well, I'm trying to launch. We've got 4 pieces of information here. I'm trying to launch one of them.
Did you ask a question?
I was just trying to mention I'm trying to launch one of them, and I'm having a say in its time launching here. So there's
I have a permit that I received from DEP that allows me to do this work. And one of the things I wanted to bring up is that I was really asking for a jurisdictional decision, because I think they do have the authority to allow this for the increase of the enhancement of the water and the use.
I just tried and it works fine. I dialed 646-518-9805
that's
and
why
then it
Alice
says,
was muting.
put in your
Alice was muting herself there.
pound.
Okay, Alice is talking, so maybe I know she's trying to help and be helpful. If she wants to mute herself, that could be handy, or Allison, if you want to just mute her. So I understand, yeah, the state has jurisdiction for the use of herbicides in
Yes.
state waters, which I assume this particular pond qualifies for. Is there any, are you planning to use any of this herbicide outside of the pond?
No. In fact, that's been asked, how much area. 0.78 acres of water would be between the 2 pieces. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, I'm just going through, I'm just looking at the application here. Again, these things changed around a little bit here.
I have three phases. The first one is the weir that they eventually want to repair. Second one is the piece along the water. And it only goes out about maybe 8 or 10 feet. And in the weir is up here where my finger is. It's a little cement dam that's at the water level. And right now, you can't even get through it. And the beavers are clogging it. And the railroad, when we were there doing a biological study for other, what might be endangered species, and there are none, they came in with a tremendous backhoe below the weir to open up the outflow so it doesn't flow across the railroad tracks. So there's going to be a lot of action going on in there. And if you ever get a lot of rain, it's, you're going to flood the tracks, blah, blah. But that's the railroad's problem. And they seem to be taking care of it without a permit, but it's in their right of way.
Okay, well, we might, are you suggesting that there's some damage to that weir and that detention area?
Not damage. The weir is probably old and they'd like to take a look at it, see if there's any repairs needed. But in order to do that, got to remove the frag. The frags are in, they're a reed. They grow to 7 or 12 feet. They are very invasive, and they grow.
Do this with faith.
They grow in on themselves, and so they make tremendous.
Okay.
So we have to kill those, so those can be removed.
Okay, so right now, again, I'm just trying to scroll through this application here. All I saw is it's the pond edge and the outlet. So you're not putting any herbicides into wetland areas. Everything is going in the pond.
Well, it's all wetlands by definition.
Okay, yeah, but there's a slight difference.
The outlet.
Okay, well, there's a slight difference between the water of the pond, which is where the state has total jurisdiction on, and the dirt, right? There's the dirt where the earth starts, from the edge of the pond.
The littoral zone.
Some people will call it that. So we have jurisdiction on the ground part, which again could have wetlands soils there.
Okay.
So that's our jurisdiction. So that's why I'm trying to understand. Like I said, if you're just putting, if your interest is if you just got Phragmites in the pond area and your plan is to put an herbicide in there to get it out, the state has total jurisdiction there. We would be interested because you probably have to pull it out of the water, and then or what your plan might be for if you are planning to remove it once it dies.
I think along the wooded edge, they're going to leave it and let it, die of its own accord.
Okay.
But at the weir, if they want to get in there, they may have to take it out, take the dead root mass out.
You keep saying they, are you referring to the railroad again?
No, this is off the right of way in the outflow that is apparently the pond edge and an outflow that eventually crosses under the railroad tracks to another wetlands further downstream.
But you're saying you may have to remove some of the dead material from around the weir. Is that something you would do?
I will not do that. I'm only the suppressor of the vegetation.
Okay. Bless.
All right, bless you.
And who would it do it? Would they bring in machinery?
That would be entirely up to the association.
Oh, okay. But I thought you were representing the association. I'm sorry.
Not for that total job.
Okay.
What they want, this is their phase to get started on making the Weir area open, useful, and to be able to inspect it. So whether they get somebody in there with a spading fork to pick this stuff out next year, I don't think they'll be going in there.
I was literally on the phone and it went,
Okay,
So
so,
wow, this just can't get it.
yeah, there's,
It's such
Excuse me
fucking
just for a
bullshit.
minute. Diane
Put it on there.
Saivo,
Yeah,
you are on the
Yes.
phone, so if you could please not speak while others are speaking.
oh, it said I was on mute. I'm sorry.
Well,
I
you mute is
apologize.
fine if you could do that. Okay, sorry.
all right, well, it sounds like to me, it sounds like the number one thing that you know you want to do and you're seeking our input on is the use of an herbicide in the pond.
On those, on the edge and the outflow Weir area. In my DEP application, your pond, the pond, is 10.4 acres, according to my calculation. And at phase one, the Weir, would be 0.23 acres of water. And phase two, the easterly edge, would be 0.55. So we're talking about 3/4 of an acre of water edge and Weir that would use, let's see, 0.46 quarts of glyphosate, okay, on 0.23 acres, and 1.1 quart of glyphosate on the 0.55, the wooded area. Edge.
Okay. All right, so you are planning to put glyphosate into wetland soils.
Yes, glyphosate is permitted by the state in aquatic
It
use.
is. It is. That's why I've been trying to understand what because at least the way I'm reading the application here, it isn't entirely clear to me.
What is not clear?
What wasn't clear is how much glyphosate you are interested in putting into wetland soils.
Okay, and I think my submissions, were supposed to, I guess I wouldn't expect you to read them, but that's.
I'm trying to read them right now. And I have things like disturbed wetland areas,
Yeah.
nothing, it's blank.
Well, but I have to go by what I requested from DEP, and that's on page 7 of their application, my application to them. That would be the second one. Yeah, that would be the second one that you
The
have.
second one there, the deep application.
Yes.
All right, well, okay, that's useful, but we wouldn't commonly use that. And I'm trying to download it now. We would commonly use, our application because that's what we would, keep on file here.
I think I had just mentioned in yours glyphosate. I have to check, but it never really asked the specific acreage or gallonage, which I thought was in almost all the other documents I'm submitting.
Can I implore you to come up with an alternative method other than using glyphosate? While I know it may be legal, there is definitely some information out there that's coming to light that says maybe it's not the best thing to be using. So I would implore you to think of other alternatives, such as, manually removing them would be great, or some other form of use. In fact, we've gotten the town of Brookfield to stop using glyphosate.
If I may respond, I looked at alternatives. One of them is leaving it the way it is and then clogging everything up. Second one was mowing and or burning. burning gives you air pollution. Mowing be pretty difficult to do that. But again, in that second case, and even with burning, you still leave the rhizomes. They're under the water, and it's a very aggressive plant. So yes, it would clean it up for maybe a year or two, then it would all eventually grow back. And of course, this is a wetlands area that is very conducive to Phragmites. Not that my treatment will be any better than pulling it out, cutting it, burning it, excavating it, but it will allow for longer reduction and perhaps the allowance of things like sedges and other plants to grow in there that are less invasive.
Well, just because something might be an easier way to do it doesn't mean it's better for the environment. Just because it's easier to kill those things doesn't necessarily mean it's the right way to do it. I'm just asking you, out of the goodness of your heart, if you could consider another way. If you can't, we'll take that into consideration.
I do not have another alternative to suppress this and kill it that would not have.
Did we lose him?
I don't.
I've been
You're
40 years.
You're breaking
40
up a
years
little
of-
bit.
I've done 40 years of aquatic weed control, all kinds. And this is one of the toughest ones. And the type of problem I get when owners of property have no longer alternatives. They can't cut it, they can't penetrate it. It's getting more and more growing out into the water.
Well, they could have nipped it in the bud early with some hand mitigation. We agree on that.
Well, would you agree on having them come in with an excavator and pulling it all
I
out? And
certainly
dumping it
might.
somewhere?
I'd certainly consider it.
Well, you might have
Pouring
that.
glyphosate in the water?
You might have that opportunity someday on some ponds. Yes, but do you allow that type of dredge and excavation and removal of that invasive weed to another location? That's all I ask.
Why would you bring it to another location? You
What are
incinerate
you
it.
going to do with it?
You incinerate it. Isn't that what
Do
they
what?
do when they dig them out?
Incinerate them?
Yeah.
No, not that I know of. They dry them out. They put them on their own property. And if it isn't conducive to the rhizomes regrowing, then they're good.
Well,
Again,
then you got your own answer there.
no, there really is no answer to getting rid of invasive weeds nicely. You either get rid of them by chemical or excavation or, or burning, but all of these have their downsides. This one has the least downside. It's going to be about a gallon and a half of glyphosate. And if you believe all the things that you hear on television, I was around when glyphosate first came out. I've been using glyphosate for over 40 years, killing poison ivy, killing all kinds of grasses, the vine bittersweet, multiflora rose, all of those through the root, so that agriculturally interested people and landowners can get their land back. A lot of these reseed, the ones I've just mentioned. You can kill them and the seed bank is there and it's vigilance. So my job is to get this clean, and then it's going to be up to the association to maintain it. And that maintenance is more like what you're speaking of.
And yes, to answer your question, we have allowed dredging of ponds to get out invasives if it's done properly. It's absolutely
Right.
something we've allowed in the past.
Okay.
If I may, I'd like to get back to the issue of where our responsibility is. And what would help me would be what I'm reading here in the proposed description, or rather description of proposed activity. It says suppression of Phragmites on the southern edge of the pond. And I would ask if by the southern edge, you're referring only to the water on the south side of the pond, what's in the pond, or the edge of the pond, what you might call the beach or the area of land that surrounds the pond. Is the southern edge include the area outside the pond?
That's on phase 3 is the inner woodland. There's a map there. But yes, I'm going right up.
The
right up to
description on our application, what you're asking for permission to do.
I'm only asking right now because I'm required by DEEP
Mhm.
to get a permit to put it in the waters of the state of Connecticut.
Okay, I
Yeah,
understand.
but that's not what I'm, but that's, wait, that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you're trying to do two things. I'm hearing that that you want to put glyphosate in the pond. The state, and I see you've got an application that you can take to the state. We don't have jurisdiction over that. That's state law.
I have a permit in the file.
Okay, that's fine. But what we're interested, so you've got that, you've got whatever you need from the state for the pond. So if I could, just to sort of follow on to what Mr. Newstead is saying, let's set that aside. Because you are pursuing that with the state, and if you've got the approval, great. What we're interested in is the area outside of that pond. And your application here,
Does
well,
not
I'm
have,
looking at it on page 4, doesn't describe anything that you want to do in the area outside of the pond. The disturbed wetland area is blank. There's nothing there. So if you're trying to put, if your proposal is to try and use glyphosate, and I would echo Mr. Mulvaney, I think there's a better way to do that. You have to help us out here, and you have to describe exactly what you're trying to do outside of that pond area. How many square feet of Phragmites are you trying to get rid of? What you think a proposal would be in terms of the amount of glyphosate?
that would be, you get my form here.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 4. It's a 9-page form. I'm looking at page 4, and it's blank
On your page.
on my page.
Well, the whole page isn't blank, just
That's
the disturbed wetland
wetlands.
area amount.
The disturbed wetland area is blank.
All right. On the map, if you can find that, there's the woodland area.
Okay, well, that's where you got to help us out, Mr. Gambino. If we were sitting,
I will tell you that.
If we were sitting, at the town hall, right in front of right next to each other, we could probably look at that map and we could probably calculate the amount of square footage, and we could probably update the application, and write it in. Unfortunately, we can't do that with what our constraint is.
About 1/2 to 1 acre of woodland area.
Okay, well then, what you got to help us out with then is you got to update. This is new business, so we cannot make a decision today. We need you to update that application with the amount of the square footage of the Phragmites that you would like to use glyphosate with. You obviously have some understanding of how much you want to use. I think you got to document that for us on this application. And then I said, I would encourage you to take a look at mechanical ways to remove that. Because glyphosate, you got to put that down, and then you got to come back next year and put more down, and the year after that, and the year after that. It's an ongoing adventure.
Well, what I'd like to say then is phase 3 was never part of my application with you, because that part would only be done after I did phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is the weir. Phase 2 is that strip of water along the edge. I want to be able to do that this year, and the association can then ask me to apply to wetlands to do the woodland. Phase 3.
Okay.
That's why phase
You
3.
gotta help us. This is where you gotta help us out too, because eventually this 9-page application for the town, it has to be comprehensive. It has to talk about everything that you want to do, whether you describe it as phase 1 or phase 2 or phase 3. Somehow you've got to document that for us on this
Well,
application or as some attachment. We're
I
not
call it
seeing
phase
it.
3. But I'm
Well,
not,
I'm sorry.
it's got to, I was asked to submit. So I submitted a 30-page application to the Department of Environmental Protection and Energy that has every
Yep.
abutter on your pond. It has everything that it has to do with that wetland and that water body and those people that could be affected. Now, the woodland is not part of my plan this month or this year.
Oh, okay. But for us, you have, I hope you can appreciate, we're happy to look at anything you want to do, however you want to describe it. Phase 1 this year, phase 2, phase 3, but you have to help us out here and actually document this. And I'm not seeing it, and I'll open it up. I don't think Michael was seeing it. I don't know if Mark's seeing it. I don't know if anybody else is seeing it. We're not seeing it on the Brookfield Inland Wetlands application. We're not seeing most of what you are speaking of on that document. And that's what you got to help us out with, because if you can get it on that document, then all of us will have a very clear understanding of what you want to accomplish. And we can then make a decision on that proposal or change it, or we'll all be very clear about what you want to do. And we're not, I don't think we're there yet.
Right, so I'm looking at the packet, it's 26 pages, and the only notation I see that really makes it 1, 2, and 3 is there's little teardrops labeled 1, 2, and 3. So when you say that, that's one thing, but when if we were approving it, there's nothing in here saying we would only approve phase 1 or phase 1 and 2.
I was under the impression that you would be looking at the DEP application.
No.
Which has all that.
That's for
So
the water. That's for the water, and we understand that the DEP, right or wrong, has their rules for the water course, the pond. When we get into the shoreline, this application that you sent to the DEP has some stuff in the shoreline. That's not under their purview. That's under our purview.
Well, I'm only doing the water edge.
But you're giving us a document that has everything in it. We can't just willy-nilly say, we only want to give you a little piece of it. It's in the document. So give us a document that only has what you want to do now.
All right.
I guess that would make it the easiest. That would be something to consider.
Yeah.
Right, Ms. Fox?
Right. We have to have for the area outside of the pond. The pond is the state, and that's just the way the state, these are state rules. These aren't ours. The state looks after the pond. So you've got one document with them. You've given us copies of it. That is just for the pond. Our application, which you've filled out, and I believe and is not completely descriptive of what you're trying to do, that's the document that we'll make a decision on. And so what we need you to do is if you're doing things out, you got to write it down for us. Mr. Gambino, you've got to write it down for us, please.
Right. Then I can write down, I'm not doing nothing on the place out of water.
Okay. Well, I have heard you. Here's the thing. We've heard you say you were in the conversation. We've heard you talk about glyphosate in the wetlands and in the upland review area. We've heard you talk about excavators. So if you're not doing anything but the pond.
Yes.
That's okay.
Take everything else out.
My point is, I now know that you want a permit for the woodland. I'm not doing the woodland.
Oh, okay.
But the woodland is something, when I made my application to the association, I indicated 3 areas. the woodland was one of them because it does have Phragmites growing in there. But I had to get a permit to do the water part.
Right,
And that's what
from
I
the
did.
state.
That's what I'm doing with you.
Right.
So that's
Right.
what I would
So
like.
you don't need,
Go ahead.
if you don't need anything, you don't need anything from us. You don't need anything from us if your only activity is the pond. You don't need anything from us. You don't need a jurisdictional ruling. You don't need anything from us. You don't need a motion. Everything that's in the pond is with the state.
Okay. And
As
I,
much as that pains me because the
I
DEP doesn't
agree
look after the
with
waters
you.
like they should.
because
Yeah.
that's what many wetlands commissions throughout the state do. In other words, I'm doing that kind of work there. That's fine. Someplace else, terrestrial, that's something else. But you can't
Terrestrial,
necessarily-
you must come. Terrestrial, you must come back here.
Yes, that's,
If you are interested in if you're interested in the Phragmites that are in wetland soils or in the upland review area, or outside of that, then you must complete an application, and then
Or
you
cutting
must
a
come
path-
back.
Or cutting a path down to the water to access it to do your work.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Or if you were cutting a path through the upland review area to get to the pond to do your work, that would have to come before us.
And I'm not doing that.
Okay.
I'm going to get
Anything other than
permission.
treading lightly. And we look favorably.
I am
Look,
only-
if you
Right,
want to
so-
go in there and hand remove
Right.
the stuff, that's great. That's an easy thing for us to pass. But, and we're willing to look at that. But if
I will-
you're not doing anything on the upland review, there is no need to be here.
I will do that with the association.
Okay.
Phase 3 with
All right.
them completely separate.
And that will come to us.
And that
Yes, it
comes
will.
to us. Right.
I agree.
Along with, I said, as Mr. Mulvaney said, if your plan for that pond includes cutting down things or trucks down by the shoreline,
No,
that is an upland review activity, and you need to have a permit for that.
well, I will be on the right of way for the railroad from Stony Hill. I'm getting permission to do the work only on a Saturday for the railroad. My truck will be on actually, it's not the railroad right of way, transmission line right of way. We're putting a canoe in the water to go over the weeds and get to the Phragmites.
Okay. Great. You don't need anything from us as long as it's limited to the pond and you're using existing access ways, and you're not tearing up the wetland soils or cutting down bushes and trees in the upland review area. You don't need anything from us.
Thank you.
All right. Well,
And
good luck.
again, you can remove the invasives. You just need to come to us and we'll help you with that.
No, I understand.
We'll help you because we are very interested. We are very interested in getting Phragmites out of the water. We're interested in getting it out of upland review areas. We are very interested in doing it. I'll speak for myself and Mr. Mulvaney with mechanical means. The fewer chemicals we can have on this planet, the better.
Amen.
I understand that, and I appreciate it. I will, when I do it, I will send you information that has been done, not only by myself, but others in terms of restoring Phragmites in wetland areas like the woodland and the water's edge. Swamps.
Always
read it.
interested in good information.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Good luck. Again, come back to us. Like I said, we want to help. We want to help get Phragmites out of there the best way.
Good.
So
I hope you're all staying well away from COVID. And I want to apologize to your staff for the baloney I went through trying to get the DEEP permit to be looked at by you, Commission, and okayed as something that I can do for that association. And I thank you for allowing it.
Okay, well, we're glad for the
Thank you.
conversation and good luck with that. And I said, is there more we can do to get Phragmites out of Brookfield? Come and see us.
Good.
All right,
So
thank you.
I'm gonna make a motion on this.
I don't know if you
Or
need
are they
to.
gonna withdraw it?
Oh,
Oh, that's a good one. But then
yeah.
We can
I
make a
just sent
motion,
in-
dismiss without prejudice would be the motion I would make.
Would I get a
for-
waiver?
What's that?
I get a waiver? I paid.
Yes. Yes, we
Okay.
can do that.
I'm fine with that.
Well,
You know,
let's talk before you make the motion, Mark. It's let's just talk about it. Thank you, because we got to deal with the application.
Right.
I don't even know if it has to be without prejudice because it's not. There's no
deny it
activity.
For no activity
action.
taking place in our, in our regulated area.
Alice, can we get them their money back?
We should be able to, yeah, because we haven't put it through to the state yet. So the state fee, we still have to pay the state fee of $60.
We can give them the rest of the money back, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So
we can do that.
maybe the motion, Mark, could include, like you said, maybe reimbursement of the fees, because we make note that the application does not describe any activity in the upland review area. Something along those lines?
Mhm.
That's fair. And you need the money to go to the state. That's what's 60 or 30, right?
Yeah, when you submitted the application, you tripped a wire. So that $60 has to go to the state. But the rest of it stays in Brookfield, and it looks like if it's possible, maybe that should be in the motion too, Mark, conceivably, to return the money that's related to Brookfield.
We can do that.
Yeah.
Yep. You good with that, Mr. Gambino?
That's $30 and taxes. $30 in what I paid to do it online today because I had all my paperwork and never got an invoice, and I forced them to accept my check at 3:30. So
Today?
I didn't pay him today.
Sounds like great service. If you did something at 3:30 today, that sounds like a great service.
But COVID knows nobody, so we have to follow the rule.
Right. All right, Mark, you want to take a shot at this? Thank you, Mr. Gambino. We're going to try and wrap this up for you.
Please.
Yeah. Just chime in, Ms. Fox, when I butcher this. I'll make a motion to deny 7A Carriage Homes on the Pond, action number W20-33, due to no work being done in any area that is within the Brookfield Inland Wetlands Commission's purview, and that we return the fees paid to Brookfield under this application.
Sounds right to me. Michael, Dave, John?
Do we want to say denied without prejudice, or is that not necessary?
No, because I don't think it's necessary because he's not coming back. I mean, the
Okay.
point is there's no activity. So that's why I don't think
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah, I agree with when Sharon said that. That makes a lot more
Okay.
sense.
So Michael, I got a second?
I'll second that.
All right, any more discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimous. All righty. Next we have, yeah, okay, good luck. The
Yeah.
next we,
Sharon, if you want to go back to 4 Hollow, I believe Diane Sivo is on the phone.
okay.
Sharon, I think Dave is, have we lost him? Is he muted?
Dave. Dave who?
Oh,
Dave Frankel, I think that's him, the 928 number.
yeah,
I think he's muted.
he's muted.
Yeah.
I don't know, he may have had some comment on this.
Right. So again, Dave, I assumed that you were voting in the affirmative for that, if you can hear us.
He would need to unmute his own phone. There
Can
he
you
is.
hear me?
Yes.
Now we
Yeah,
can.
I assume,
Okay, sorry.
yeah, I assume that was in the affirmative on that.
Yes.
Okie doke. All righty, so now we're gonna go back to 4 Hollow Drive. We've got someone here for that application. Can you let us know your name and address, please?
Diane, can you unmute your phone? Diane, your phone is on mute.
And we can't unmute you.
No, only she can.
All right.
In the lower left of your screen, there's a
All right.
little microphone you could click on.
Let's go to
Well,
17
no,
Old
she's on the
Turnpike
phone,
Road.
Michael, so she has
Oh,
to.
sorry.
All right, well, while she figures that
Okay.
out, because she's not, I can't fix that.
No, nor can
Um,
I.
well, while we're here, like I said, let's just hope she, can unmute her line
Tell
here.
her to do *6 and she'll be unmuted.
Okay, hopefully she heard you, Dave. All right, so let's go back to 4 Hollow Drive. Let's see. I did get a chance to drive by. I
There
did
she
get a
is.
chance. All right.
Hello?
Yeah, can we
Hi,
get your
Diane.
name and address, please?
Diane Tyvo, 13 Abbey
And you-
Road, Brookfield.
And you're here for 4 Hollow Drive, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Like I said, I did get a chance to drive by there. I did see that pile of logs, and Mark, I did see the email of the text, I think, I guess it was an email of the debris there. So I did see that.
We
I also
submitted a
had a
plan
chance.
we submitted
Yeah.
a plan to you, addressed all of the concerns that you had at your last meeting.
Yeah, for my colleagues, I had a chance on Friday to go and actually look at the original approval. And then this particular approval, the, sort of the footprint of the house. And the essence of it is, the essence of it is the house, the footprint for the house is essentially the same. This one that they're looking at is slightly bigger. And so it is slightly closer to the wetlands, but it's still a fair distance. They have in the grading plan that I saw, let me just try and get that up. What is different is the grading plan between the edge of the house. Is this one I'm looking at here? The edge of the house and the detention, where the detention basin is. It's showing a, I'm trying to download that grading plan. I think that's where it is. It looks like in the grading plan to maybe accommodate that steep slope, that there's a well that they've put in
Yeah, you asked
Yeah,
us
here
to
it
put a swale. You asked us to put a swale between the yard and the detention basin,
Yeah.
so that's what they did. Plan.
Yeah, and that's what I saw. Yeah, that's what I saw on Friday. And I'm just trying to make sure I'm looking at the right plan. Is it it's in the grading plan or I think it's in the grading plan, right?
It's the septic system design. Lot number 2, North Mountain Hollow, 4 Hollow Drive.
Yeah, there was one of the plans that showed it extremely detailed.
Grading and utility plan is what I see, and it seems to be quite detailed. If you enlarge it, you can see quite a bit.
That's the one, yeah. So that's the one. That's the one that we looked at. The 4 Hollow Drive septic system design.
Right.
That's the one that I'm looking at, and it very clearly shows that swale as the
right.
let me try and make this a little bit bigger here.
We added that after the last meeting per your request
Right,
for a swale.
right. So the good news is we found it. So come on here. I'm just trying to get the elevations here. I'm just trying to, is everybody looking at this one?
Yes.
We also added distance from the closest point of the septic system to the detention basin. We added those distances for you.
Yeah, I see that. I'm just trying to get it zoomed in here enough so I can read it. Yeah, I think it's like 51 feet to the fence.
Right.
From the edge of that septic.
70 feet of water.
Right. And then the swale is at 470 to 469 and then back to 470.
That's correct.
Did everybody find
we
that?
Also added,
Yes.
We also added rain gardens for the roof drain runoff.
Right.
There's 2 of them.
Right. I saw that. So again, from my review in terms of what was done before to what is done today, there's essentially, I said the footprint of the house is a little bit bigger. It's a little bit closer to the detention basin, but it's still a good distance. My thought is, and Ms. Saibo, maybe you can help a little bit. My thought is because it looks like it's a little steeper between the the foundation down to the swale. I'm interested in trying to make sure that the property owner that the edge of that swale there is a line of permanent disturbance.
Mm-hmm.
And that anything past that is not going to be subject to grass and lawn chemicals.
Well, no, there's a planting plan for the outside of the detention basin.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking about, as I said, is that the edge of that swale becomes a permanent line of disturbance, and the property owner wouldn't be putting grass, and chemicals beyond that swale, going down into the detention basin.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my I said from that I am okay. I'm okay with the footprint. I'm okay with the rain garden. I'm okay with the topsoil stockpile area. I'm okay with the distance from the septic. What I am interested in, I said, is making that that 469 and a half elevation,
Mm-hmm.
A permanent line of disturbance. When I was with Alice, we kind of did a measurement, from that rain garden, back to where the septic is. It looks like it's 70 or 80 feet, something like that. That there are, you can, that you install like 3 concrete monuments, on those edges, one on, that flank that area, and those become the markers for the permanent line of disturbance, and that no grass seed, no lawn chemicals beyond that line. And my reasoning for it is, again, there's a steeper slope. Yeah, they're little monuments you buy. They're like 3 feet, they're 4 inches square, something like that, 3-4 inches square, and they can be dropped in.
It might be a little confusing because those are monuments that show the property line. Those are the monuments that are show the front line of the property.
Well,
that's what they use.
Yeah. Well, here, you're eventually we're going to have an A2 survey, so you can just mark them. You can just mark them that the monuments are for the permanent line of disturbance, and from per the Brookfield Inland Wetlands. You can just mark them on your final A2 survey.
So you don't want him to do anything below that. So you want all the trees to grow up in there.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that.
You want it to be completely wooded in a couple of years.
I think that's fine. Do you see an objection to that?
Well, I mean, it would, I don't know, make it so that the basin becomes pretty much invisible.
become a part of nature.
Right,
Yeah, well, that's what it is now.
right. So
The issue becomes if people put grass, then they're going to fertilize it, and then we know what happens when the fertilizer gets into the water course.
all right. That's what we're trying to prevent.
All right.
But I'm looking at Cynthia. This is from Cynthia, right? Yeah, Cynthia Rabinowitz's letter from 7/27 from a site visit with Alice and Jason and her.
Right.
Which looks good. There was, let's see, she didn't want any grass planted, so that's going to change from your plan, so we could get a modification for that, right? Because originally it was supposed to be grass, but now the common cattail is well established, so that's good.
Yeah, that wasn't actually on the plan though.
Yeah, I'm saying we could just modify that it's common cattail, not grass, and that's great. That's a plus. No more work needed on that. But I think she asked about a rock line channel. We discussed the need for a deeper area to be created where the basin meets the rock line channel leading to the outflow. This forebay would allow sediment to settle, could be cleaned out periodically as needed in the future. So that's the one thing I saw in there that we have to do.
Mark, actually, there are the rocks, but what she was suggesting was an area just
before it.
Just before it, yeah, to be cleaned out on a regular basis.
Right, but it needs to be a little deeper, she's saying.
Yeah.
So we could modify the permit to say that as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Or, well, I guess there's a couple ways. We could just modify it to accept Ms. Rabinowitz's notes, with that modification. I don't know, Sharon, what do you?
Well, I think there is a maintenance plan for this detention basin.
There is.
Right, and so.
But this changes it a little.
And this modifies it. So, yeah, as a part of the approval here, we could make note about the application and then to update the maintenance plan with these items.
Yep, that works for me.
Right? Michael, John, Dave, I don't want to leave you guys out here.
I do have one question. Looking at the plan, there's a fence drawn in around the sediment basin. Is that a permanent fence? Is that a something just during construction? Is it there now? What is that fence?
There's no fence there now, but I think that the homeowner will probably install it as a permanent fence, more for his liability than anything else.
Okay. Well, that's outside or beyond the area, Sharon, that you were saying would be an area of no disturbance.
Correct.
So they're planning to build a fence on the other side of that swale.
Right. Yeah, I think that was, I'm pretty sure that was in the original one, so.
I'm not saying
it's a lot common.
I'm not saying it's a problem, I'm just questioning it, if it needs to be part of what we're saying.
I don't think so, Michael. I think it was.
So I wouldn't want to contradict, what if you will put in a stipulation that there be a permanent line of no disturbance, then we don't want to contradict that.
Is the fence there?
She said no.
No.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm okay. All right. So Michael makes a little point here, that the permanent line of disturbance allows, installation of the approved fence.
If it's on the original plan and approved, then there's no problem with it.
Yeah, something along the lines of I said the permanent line of disturbance, which will be at 469 and a half, allows the installation of the previously approved fence.
Okay, that would certainly work.
Yeah. So I think the best plan for this is the septic system design plan, that PDF. I think that's the clearest one that shows the swale, seems to show the swale the best.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the one that we would probably look at approving. If that's where we're headed. I think that's where I'm headed.
That's where I'm headed.
Yeah.
I agree to that.
Okay.
Yep. Second.
All right. Well, we
Not
haven't made a
voting on
motion
it.
yet, Dave. So hang on. I know it's
I
harder
know,
for you.
I know. I'm just saying in
It's harder
agreement.
for you on the phone. All right. Well, if you want, Mark or Michael, if you guys want to make a motion, otherwise I'll give it a shot.
I can do it, I think.
Okay, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion to approve, give me a moment to find it, 4 Hollow Drive, number W-20-31, as shown on a document dated March 19th, 2020 by CCA, titled Septic System Design, with the provision that a line of no disturbance be put at with markers indicating a line of no disturbance put at the 469 line on the swale. However, it would still allow for the construction of the previously approved fence around the sediment basin, subject to all the usual stipulations, and to be effective the day after publication.
Michael, can we get the 3 concrete monuments to
Oh,
mark that
okay.
line of disturbance?
All right. So we have, to my words, to have a line of permanent disturbance marked by 3 concrete monuments.
And the 469.5 is on the house side.
Oh, is it twice there? Yes. So
Yes,
the
it is.
469.5 line on the house side of the swale.
Allison, how did we do?
Sounds good.
Okay, someone make a second?
Second.
All right, thanks, Dave. All right, any discussion on the motion? All right, so all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimous. All right, so let's jump back to 17 Old Turnpike Road. Someone here on the phone for 17 Old Turnpike? Anybody? If you are and you're on mute, we can't tell. We're not hearing anything. I'm not seeing any raised hands or anything. All right, so let's just take a look at this one. Let's take a look at the application. Alice, do you have anything, any background on this we should know about?
This is the one where they installed a pool and
Installed in, as in the past?
yeah, you guys
Oh,
approved
right,
it a couple months
It's
ago.
on the side. It's across
All
the
right.
street from where I live.
Right, right. And after he did that, he was getting water in his basement because the roof drains were hitting the pool and coming back towards the house. So he's proposing extending the pipe out to close to the edge of his property, creating a swale to bring the water down to the wetlands.
All right, so we've got a PDF with a plan, and look at that nice pool. Is that it? So that's, what is that? Plus or minus 30 feet of swale?
Yeah, I asked for a little clarification on those and also the amount of water they were expecting through that pipe, and I was not able to find, they didn't get back to me.
So it looks like it's an underground pipe that comes off the house. Kind of reading it upside down here.
Ms. Fox, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
They need, I mean, the construction sequence needs a bunch of things added. They don't have when they're putting in a silt fence or taking it out or inspections or, I really think we should wait until somebody from the applicant is here to speak to this.
Well, we can definitely do that. I think we can maybe give them some ideas, but I haven't even looked at the construction sequence yet. Maybe give them some ideas, but I'm sort of interested in this, this swale. Does it say, is it grass? How come I have a
Yes.
tough time reading this thing?
There's a little detail, but it doesn't give the depth or much information, unfortunately.
It doesn't say the size of the pipe. There's really nothing.
Well, plus I'm thinking too, I mean, we wouldn't want to just have you wouldn't want to just have a straight line swale here. This to me looks like a recipe for a washout.
Yep.
I mean, maybe what I've seen that would look better, work better would be something that kind of flares, maybe, maybe some riprap up at the top and then a water bar. A riprap water bar.
Yep.
And then, allow a little bit more widespread flow. Again, because this just looks like, gosh, you get a lot of rain like we did this afternoon and kaboom, he's going to end up with a big mess.
Right.
So I think if I think you'll see the minutes or I said, I don't think this one is going to work for the applicant. I said, I think that we got to talk about, again, the size of the pipe needs to be on the document. I think what we've seen work better and what I'm interested in, I said, is a sort of like as that pipe daylights, a depression if they want to put rocks in there, depression, and then a water bar, and then allow that grading to let that water, more widespread flow into the wetlands. I don't think what he's got here is appropriate. So let's take a look at the construction sequence for him, Mark. Contractor to dig up the pipe with a skid steer, reinstall the pipe lower into the ground.
It just doesn't work in this manner. So you have to, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, yep. So, right, if I'll top of my head, I install the and then
what is that?
That's my phone ringing. I'm going to put myself on mute in a second here. That's my phone that's sitting right here. There we go.
Sounds almost like a European phone.
Another way. So
it's your car warranty department.
Call the IT department. Just unplugged it.
All right. So top of my head, you're gonna put up silt fence, call for inspection, dig up the pipe and the swale. Right. You're not going to dig up. If you put the pipe in before you dig the swale up, you're going to have a mess if we get a rainstorm in between. So you're going to do all the digging. I doubt if they're digging with a skid steer, maybe a backhoe or a mini excavator, or both. Then you'll reinstall the pipe lower into the ground. The swale will already be done. Then you're going to fill it in, seed and hay. Then you're going to call for inspection and remove the silt fence after everything is germinated. So, but in there, we're going to, I think, have to put in some sort of riprap or maybe even a breaker bar halfway down to slow it down.
To slow it down, right?
I'd really like to see a topo on it a little better, so I knew how steep that swale was going to be. Probably not real steep, but still nice to slow it down when you can.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I drove by that property. It was really pretty flat there, as I remember from the road down into the wetland
Yes.
area. Yeah, it was
Yep.
pretty flat. So you might have some challenges here.
Well, I think it slopes slightly downward. It isn't a hill or anything like that. The guy's across the street from where I live.
Okay.
So-
I mean, that doesn't, that just, it kind of adds, Mark, to your,
Right.
to your points about making this, more a thorough plan to really document what it is that they're going to have to do.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, it said, Alice, hopefully he can take a look at some of the minutes that we've got here, or you can give him a call. I said, I think there's more work that needs to be done on this to make it a plan that is an appropriate plan for this property.
Yeah, I'll let him know and I'll send him the video so he can watch.
All right. Again, and tell him we appreciate, the plan that he had, and the distances and, that element and the construction sequence. We're grateful to have that. And we want to work with him to, to get his problem solved. Nobody wants water in anybody's basement, that's for sure. And we appreciate, like I said, things are a little different now. Like I said, it's everybody's remote. And so, it's harder for us to, it's impossible, for us to do, do more in the meetings. We really need them to, to provide plans that, are, comprehensive when we get a chance to look at them. But again, thank him for this. And like I said, we're very keen to help him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how about a motion to continue?
So move.
Oh, okay. So Mark made the motion. I heard, who was that?
That's all right, Mark. You got it. I'll second it. This is Michael.
All right. Michael seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Motion carries unanimous. All right. Now we've got 730 Federal Road, W-20-35, Office Retail Development. There's someone on the call here for this application?
Hello, Sharon. Steve Sullivan's here for 730 Federal Road.
Okay. All right, Steve, why don't you give us the
Sure.
give us some highlights here as we manage our way through your attachments.
Sure. So this is 730 Federal Road. It's on the corner of Laurel Hill Road and Federal Road. It's a 3.2 acre parcel that's wooded. It has a wetlands delineation done by James McManus. There's a wetland in the south portion of the site and a smaller wetland on the western side. And if you recall, last winter we came through with 37 Old Route 7.
Right.
That was that single family duplex development. So this is the property just adjacent to that, the same wetland delineation was done. So what the applicant is proposing is a 6,000 square foot. Do you want me to share my screen? Do you guys have a plan or?
You're familiar with doing this. If you want to just show us what you've got here, that would be useful, I think.
Can I share that, Alice?
Allison, are you still here? She's the host now.
Okay.
And I know she had to take a minute to go
All right.
put her baby to sleep.
All right, no problem. So,
He can
so
make us all
proposing a-
co-hosts, by the way.
Yeah, well, she can as the host, yes.
Right, so that one of us could do that kind of stuff. if she's
I'm
away.
the co-host, so I can't make him co-host, but I could try to share my screen.
There you go.
I could try.
So this is
Oh,
a
there we go.
6,000 square foot building. We have it allocated for professional office, medical office, and retail. There are 36 parking spaces proposed. Access is off of Laurel Hill Road. This is a parcel that has a non-access highway line by the Connecticut DOT. So you cannot access it from Federal Road and a portion of Laurel Hill Road. So we're kind of fixed on our location. And you'll see that on the plans. I suggest
that
maybe
little
we
jut
check
out
out the
where
building
number
for you guys to
4
take a walk and look around the site.
So
Oh,
there's
dear.
wetland there on the western side. That's the big wetland that I remember from the other project.
Mhm.
On the western and the southern side, yes. There you go.
And I remember this is a very, very, very wooded area.
Right.
So do we, is one of your plans here sort of talk about the trees that are coming down? And I mean, I see your application says you have no activity in the wetland.
Right. We haven't located, since it's a wooded area, no, we haven't located all the trees. I think I'd like to have you guys take a look around the site, and then maybe we can just talk about what locations you want to see.
Dave, this is a huge project. It takes up most of the site.
Well, everything, well, obviously we didn't propose anything on the south side, because you could see that's the larger wetland. There was an application in 2008 that was actually larger. Fortunately, we were able to make this footprint smaller due to the new zoning, where they want the buildings closer to the road as part of the town center district. Also, the parking dimensions got smaller and the parking requirements got smaller
We
compared
talk
to.
about refuse, though. I mean, the thing with the trash and the leaky goop is the closest to the wet thing to the wet.
So, yeah, so that's all pitched away from the wetlands. Can we look at tweaking that location? Sure.
I would love to see you tweak that and maybe look north or something with it. I'm sure you can get creative. And that's the only one that really jumps out at me.
But there is is that on the south side? Oh yeah.
North is to the right,
Mhm.
looking to on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
Maybe I meant northwest area for trash or something.
So it's also, obviously, it's on.
But then it would be,
Municipal sewer and water.
Right.
Mark, if you move it to the northwest corner, you're closer to the other wetlands.
Yep. Then I guess just move it west of where it is. Rotate it 90 degrees. And poke it
Yeah,
up.
I could probably, yeah, I could, that's what I was thinking, Mark. I could
Yeah.
put it above where the loading, the word
Yeah, just-
loading is. And
Yeah, the other
and
side
angle
of the
that,
window.
right.
All right. Well, Steve, I said I'm going to go take a look at the wetlands
Yeah.
plan, but I'm interested in your, like I said, these are wetlands that are wooded now, and so these wetlands benefit from, like I said, from the shade and such, from whatever trees are in that, are in the upland review area. So
Right.
I am extremely interested. I said as weather's, the weather warms and goodness knows, let's hope this, our rain pattern gets back to where it needs to be. But, keeping those, keeping that wetland area shaded with whatever trees are there now for both of those wetland areas. So I'm going to be looking at that. If you've got any comments on that, I'd be keen to hear them right now.
Yeah, I mean, we have a landscaping plan, Sharon. Also, I'll be submitting, like we did actually in the neighboring property, a report by James McManus.
Yeah, I'll be interested in keeping trees that are there now. Not just putting in new ones. I said because Mother Nature. Although I do remember there's areas here that have been disturbed.
Right.
I don't remember how much on this property. I'll read Jim's report and see what he says.
Yep, sure.
But whatever trees are there now, shading it is what I'm going to be interested in, not replacing what Mother Nature has come up with so far.
Okay. Do you want to see anything staked for you to get your bearings when you're out in the field?
With the area and with ticks, it makes it a lot harder because this is very wooded, as I recall.
Hmm.
I mean, this is almost all woods, as I remember.
Right.
There was actually, no, there was an easy way to get in from Laurel Hill. Now that I think about it, there was an area up. I don't know if it was the other
I think there
lot was easy
You
to
should
see.
you should just enter see opposite see where our proposed driveway is, and there's an existing driveway across the street on Laurel Hill.
Yeah.
That's probably the best place to enter in there.
So yeah, we probably do need to get out there. So I think maybe it would be, what you're proposing for the edge of those parking lots.
Sure.
Those
Yep.
corners. Something
Yep.
big and easy to see.
The
Sure.
wetlands are currently flagged, right? Those are good current flags?
So that's something we'll verify because they were done in end of 2018. So we can reestablish the flags by survey since we located them once already. So
That,
we'll check on that.
that brings up a question for me since we approved the property just to the west, as you mentioned. And if I remember correctly, there was going to be some change in the elevations, the drainage. Would that additional drainage perhaps affect this wetland and make it, after that piece is constructed, make this wetland larger or different in some way? What do you think?
Well, so that was an open basin that we proposed on that project where we had some recharge volume below the outlet. So that's draining into I'll call the pocketed area wetlands on the north side there, and that drains. There's an existing drainage pipe that crosses under Laurel Hill Road. This particular plan, instead of an open basin, we have an underground gallery system under the parking lot that again recharges the groundwater recharge volume and water quality volume. So we're replenishing that groundwater or that surface runoff.
I guess my question is, will the work being done on the property to the west affect the size of this smaller wetlands?
I believe Jim McManus's report, and I'll have him comment on that as well.
Okay.
Didn't state any kind of change in that wetland size as a result of that the proposed residential development on the west. But I'll have him weighing in on his opinion regarding this.
Thank you.
This proposal.
Okay, so if we look at the drainage report here, can you talk about, like I said, runoff, like pre-development and post-development?
Yep. So there's a little high point on the western or eastern side of the building. So you get some runoff that goes towards Federal Road, towards the corner of Laurel Hill Road and Federal Road. There's I think there's a town drainage catch basin right in the corner, kind of where we have we loop around with the proposed sidewalk. The remaining portion of the site there's a section of site drains to the south towards that finger-like shape of that wetland that discharges to an existing DOT drainage pipe under Federal Road. And then there's the rest of the area drains to the west towards that isolated pocket wetland in that culvert that crosses under Laurel Hill Road. So most of the drainage from this development is going towards that isolated pocket of wetlands in the pre-development scenario. And so we're not, in our post-development scenario, we're not changing that as far as we're not changing the area too much. So what we're providing with our management system is, again, a recharging component to recharge the water quality volume. And then once it gets above that, then you're in detention mode. So you have a post-development peak flow attenuation.
And so your stormwater management, you've got every storm event, you've got post-development is less than pre-development.
Correct. So the discharge from that Cultec system is on the, kind of near where the loading area is.
Okay.
There's a riprap plunge pool there.
Okay. All right. Well, I know I'm keen to take anything else you want to, I said, John or Dave, questions?
Not
No,
really.
I think it's okay for right now.
I'll
All
let
right.
you know when we have it staked out. I'll notify
Yep.
the land use office.
Yep. And as I said, as we go through the plans, I said, for me, I'll just ask, I
Yeah.
said, if you don't, if you, because you've stared at these plans a lot longer than I have. If it isn't clear about the existing vegetation that is remaining, in an area, in the upland review area, what you can keep, the trees that you can keep there, please add that to this application. Because that's, like I said, as I remember, that's a pretty wet area in there.
So what we can do, like we did to the naming property, we'll locate the trees within that regulated area,
Yeah,
and then we'll create that map like we did before.
right,
That shows
right. What's staying, what
staying.
you can keep versus what you want to take down. So, and we'll take a look at that.
Sure.
Anything else, Michael?
No, I'm comfortable.
Dave? Okay, well, I said we'll take a closer look at this.
Okay.
All right, someone want to make a motion to continue?
So
I'll
moved
make a motion. Oh,
All right, I think I heard Michael
Yeah.
make a motion to
to
continue. and I
continue
heard
to the next
Dave
regularly
second.
scheduled meeting.
Yep, I heard Dave second.
yep.
Right, or any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All righty. All
Okay,
right, so
thank
now
you.
we're gonna, all right, thanks, Steve. All right, so now we're gonna go back to our public hearings. We're going to do, 100 Candlewood Lake Road first. So again, if there's anyone on the phone for it's the school project, it's 100 Candlewood Lake Road. This is a continuation of the public hearing. We're going to continue with the same process. If there's members of the public that as we go through this application, or the applicant updates us on information that you have questions about, we'll come to that point in the meeting. I will ask for that. Again, these are questions about technical questions that you might have heard about this evening, or frankly, something from the previous times. And then we're going to still have an opportunity for anybody on the phone that wishes to speak in favor of the application, and anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application. So we're still going to continue that. So, and again, I also want to thank the applicant's agents here for helping us out when we had to cancel the meeting, our Monday meeting on Friday, because no one was sure who was going to have power on Monday for that meeting. So again, I appreciate you guys sending in that extension letter, which I think extends it until today. Did I get that right?
Yes.
So again, I probably should have said first, for the applicant, for who's on the phone for the applicant, maybe you guys can just, say your names and addresses, and then you can tell us what's new here.
Chairman Fox and everyone, it's Darren Overton from Mylona McBroom. Our office is at 99 Realty Drive in Cheshire, Connecticut. I've been the project manager for the site plan design. I suppose to keep it simple, I'll just say that we do have Ed Wadowski and Jeff Rosinski, representatives of the architect Tecton on the phone, and also Matt Sanford, our wetland biologist, is on the phone. I believe there's also other representatives of the school board and the building committee that may be on the phone as well.
Okay, well, again, so if anybody wants to speak, again, you're welcome to do that for the applicant. If you want to speak, we'll just need your, before you speak, your name and address, please.
And also, James Cowan is here reviewing for the town.
Yes, thank you, James. And didn't I see somebody else here?
Yes, Steve Trenkus is here too.
I was going to say Steve is here too. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
And I think that's it, right? Where's the participants again? It dropped on me. Is that it? Eric couldn't make it, right?
Right.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Just want to double check. So again, all right. Well, again, why don't you, for the applicant, why don't you guys give us an idea of what's new that you want to highlight for us? Because I see we've got a whole set of new plans here.
Yes, so prior to the last meeting, we submitted a response letter regarding the comments from Mr. Trinkus. Since that meeting was canceled, we had some discussions with Mr. Trinkus through a call or online meeting that was set up by Alice. We talked through some of those comments, and there was a desire to have actual plan revisions made and updates to our stormwater computations made to represent our responses. So since then, we have prepared revised plans. We have also updated our engineering report that supports the responses that were provided previously. We've also had some follow-up with Mr. Pincus regarding the work that we've done. For the most part, it addresses all of his concerns, and I don't want to speak for Steve, but I did see some correspondence come in today that was positive, and it appeared that we did address all of the comments that were in his prior review letters. As far as the highlights, one of the major changes we made was the stream channel protection criteria, meeting that in the design for the stormwater management for the central stream corridor. So we took the roof leaders for the building and we tied those in for the stormwater management on the south side of the school. And we also upsized the treatment for the parking lots that are on the east side of the school. And then we changed the water quality units to the ADS type units that are understood to provide better treatment or have been studied further. So their treatment effectiveness is more known than the ones we'd initially designed in this plan. So I think that's the majority of the changes. We also, on the east side, the watersheds that drain out to Candlewood Lake Road, where we had some bioretention basins, Steve had given us some recommendations on shallowing those up and to avoid groundwater, which is shown in the borings. We had actually gone out and conducted some test pits last week and did some permeability samples just to nail down the design of that. We had submitted some computations based on assumptions in order to get our submission in on Wednesday. The test pits were actually done on Thursday. So we submitted a letter today to Alice with some additional updates that actually tailored the design to the exact data. And I believe the design for that now meets the design criteria that has been established and discussed throughout the process. Meet those design standards as well, and we've got some actual soil data to back up the design. If I missed anything, I'm sure Steve would be happy to highlight it for you. Or if you have any questions, would like me to go through anything in more detail, I'd be happy to do that. I also have a co-host, so if there's any plans you'd like me to put up, I can display the plans and point out certain items that you may be interested on the plans.
Okay. Let me open up to my colleagues.
I did review everything that was sent. Excuse me. And I was most interested in our own representative's letter, who seems to agree that his concerns were met. I believe that's the case. And not being the expert myself, but relying on our retained experts, I think they've done an excellent job of meeting the requirements.
All right, thank you, Michael. Mark, John, Dave.
Looked good to me.
What was that, John?
Everything looked good to me.
You know, I'm reading Mr. Trinkus's and the group from Malone and McBroom. I'm not sure that they've addressed everything I'm specifically looking at this 26-page letter dated August 5th. Am I missing something? I mean, I'd like to hear what Mr. Trinkus, I think Mr. Cowan, well, I don't want to speak for Mr. Cowan. I want to hear from both of them. It looks to me like Mr. Cowan seems closer, but I don't think Mr. Trinkus is quite on board yet. Am I right, guys?
Well, actually, this is Steve Trinkus. They really are, Mark. A lot of the comments from the first letter were addressed by other changes, but the fundamental issues I had was, the water going to that central stream corridor, because there was a significant increase in the runoff volume, and it's well documented in professional literature that the increased runoff volumes, over either initially and definitely over time, definitely adversely affect the receiving streams, because the channels flow at a nominal depth for a much longer period of time, and the stream physically doesn't like it, so it starts eroding. Once it erodes, that eroded material moves further downstream and gets deposited in a slower moving area, and basically the channel constantly erodes until it reaches what it wants to be as equilibrium again. And unfortunately, at that point, your natural stream channel banks no longer exist. You have the eroded banks, the undercut banks. So by the applicant providing the channel protection volume for the detention system for the roof and for the parking lot detention systems, that water now, is a lower rate. The duration of flow is much longer. However, it's now in a more stable section in the channel, so it doesn't erode. And that's the main concern there. Additionally, they use the ADS water quality unit, which is basically a large diameter HDP pipe, one of the black pipes. And there's two weirs in them. One is from the bottom up and the second one is from the top down. And they're very effective at trapping non-point source pollutants. From the New Hampshire Stormwater Center, they trap 99% of total suspended solids. Hydrocarbons are also 99% because the hydrocarbons attach to the fine sediment. So you trap the sediment, you get the oils. Metals are also 99% for the same reason, because the metals adhere to the fine sediment particles, and they actually get an 80% reduction in phosphorus, which, since we're going to a freshwater stream, is the limiting factor. So the water quality volume associated with that is what's called the water quality flow. It's a rate associated with the water quality volume. So that flow rate is now directed to the water quality unit, which is the initial flush of runoff from the impervious area. That's the dirtiest water. The larger events bypass and go right to the underground detention system and then are detained and slowly released. So we're treating the dirtiest water. We don't stir it up because only that dirty water is being treated and then being drained back out to the outlet. The comments I had on the emergency access path behind the building, which is grass pavers, per the manufacturer, the base under that, the soil base has to be compacted to 95%, which pretty much makes it concrete. And my concern there was that water would not, fill up the gravel because the surface is permeable and not be able to drain. And what Darren is doing is the gravel will go out to the under drain system that they have on the western side between the emergency driveway and the wetlands, and then will slowly drain out through the under drain to the wetlands. So that eliminates that concern. With regards to the soil testing, the bioretention, they now have, I believe, 2 bioretention on both the northern driveway and the southern driveway. The northern driveway definitely had the much better soils. Actually, the hole closest to the road, we hit a very nice sand. We dug down, I want to say, in excess of 8 feet. And you could have dug it out with a teaspoon. It was very soft sand, so very suitable for bioretention. So you're going to address water quality. You're also going to get a lot of infiltration there. The southern system, that in the ball field, was compacted soil, so that will have an under drain to that system. So we'll still address water quality, but then the flows will be detained to provide the zero increase up through the 100-year storm, and then ultimately go to the drainage system on Candlewood Lake Road. The snow storage areas that were previously shown kind of around the building, between the building and the wetlands, There's now 2 large stockpiles shown out front. Any snow melt from them during the winter will go to the drainage system, and that runoff will be treated, which is really important from stockpiled snow because it actually accumulates a lot of pollutants during the winter. And when it melts, it's actually a higher pollutant load than if it just rained on the pavement. Comments with regarding the erosion and sediment control have been addressed with the wings and a limit on the uphill section of the silt fence. I think it's during phase 3, so we don't get concentrated flow running along the fence for that. Previously, they did address, a lot of the smaller, comments or questions about things. They also realigned the outlets from the front drainage system and the southern drainage system to be as close to parallel, if not parallel, with the stream flow, so that the stormwater discharges are not going perpendicular to the flow in the stream. They're going in the central, same general location. And one of the flared ends was adjusted so at the end of the riprap pad was at the wetlands line, so that we don't get any erosion, in an upland area going to that point. The other major concern I had was the temporary construction staging area on the north side of the building, which was right adjacent to the wetlands. So Darren has added a note to the plan that will be a paved area. It will actually pitch from the wetlands towards the building so that if if a truck has a slight drip of oil, it can't drain towards the wetlands. It would go towards the building. Also, he has a note that any outdoor fuel storage tanks have to be in a containment area for the same reason. And those were the major, engineering environmental comments that I had. So the plan has, gotten much better. It addresses water quality. It addresses runoff volume. We've improved the snow stockpile area and also the E&S plan.
Great. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. Thanks, Steve.
Hey, Steve, it's Sharon. Can you just go back to that? I'm just looking at because this one caught my eye. It's on page of your, I'm looking at the August 5th document, and I'm on about page, let's see, what is it? I think it's page, is it 13? I'm looking for the one where you're just talking about the runoff, the pre-development and the post-development runoff.
Okay. I don't have that letter in front of me, but if you...
Where the heck? I just had it, and then I went to the top of it to make sure it was something like pre-development is 110,000 cubic feet in a 2-year storm, and post-development it's 133,000. Does that sound familiar to anybody here?
Yeah, I think the increase was 30,000 and change over pre-development. So what the channel protection volume does is it takes the takes the pre-development 2-year peak rate. And just an example, let's just say it was 10 cubic feet per second. Under post-development conditions, your 2-year peak rate is 100 cubic feet per second. So what you have to do is design your detention system to take that 100 CFS and reduce it to 5 or 50% of the pre-development flow rate. And what that does is it requires more storage volume, which Darren has provided to accommodate, instead of matching 0, you're actually kind of less than 0. And the idea is that, if you can't infiltrate the runoff, which we don't have the soils, to do that here, that you over detain that 2-year storm event and you let it out slower and you let it out over a much longer period of time. And that way you don't have an adverse impact on the receiving stream because of the increase in the runoff volume. One of the major issues with peak rate attenuation that came into vogue in the late 70s and early 80s was, everybody thought, oh, if we have, 10 and you post development to 100, you go back to 10, Mother Nature will be happy, except everybody forgot that you have this big bathtub, a lot more water, and it's the volume which is causing these problems. So by making the post-development to 50% of the pre-development, this is the DEP standard, and this is common in many other states. This is how you protect the integrity of your downgradient streams. You lower the water surface, for this storm event into the stable section of the channel. and then it simply doesn't erode. It's, you know, it's in a happier equilibrium position.
Okay, and I did find my this point. It's on page 21 going to page 22. I think it's C4, right? Based on the computations in the report, runoff volume is 103 for the 2-year under post. It's 133, and I'm still a little puzzled here because that doesn't sound good to me. But then you go on, that doesn't sound right. I mean, we don't want to have an extra 30,000 cubic feet leaving this site.
Well, under the original design, Darren had 0 increase. So like I said, if you had 10 CFS now and 100 later, you're simply detaining it to 10. But you have this giant bathtub, i.e. that other 30,000 cubic feet of runoff that is having to drain out. And with the stream flowing at its normal height for a longer period of time, that's where the erosion occurs. So if you could infiltrate the water, if we had sand and gravel soils out here, then by infiltration, you would take that 130,000 cubic feet and get it back to roughly the 100,000. But we don't have, you know, those good soils out here for that. So in the DEP Stormwater Quality Manual, the other way to address runoff volume is this channel protection standard, which admits that you're going to discharge that 130,000 cubic feet of runoff, which is an increase of 30,000. However, the way you discharge it doesn't cause an adverse impact to the stream because you lower the flow depth and you increase the flow duration. So, you know, if you had a 2-year event come through, instead of the stream running, you know, at 1 foot depth for, 48 hours, it would run at a 6-inch depth for maybe 72 hours. And in that case, it does not cause downstream flooding because there's simply less water going out there in the first place, but it also doesn't cause erosion of the stream channel because the flow height has been lowered down to account for the increased flow duration.
And is that change on the plans that are dated 8/19?
Yeah, they have modified the design to provide the channel protection volume.
Okay.
For that, so that in both the report and the plans.
Oh, okay. So, okay. All right. Well,
that's the biggest, from a stormwater standpoint, water quality and the runoff volume were my major concerns, and both have been addressed by the plan modifications.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that further, because I wasn't sure. I'm trying to follow the letter here, and it says not addressed, but you're saying that is addressed in their channel protection strategy.
Yeah, they have addressed it. I mean, and one of our meetings with Alice, I made it clear that these were the major issues that were a non-negotiable item from a stormwater standpoint, and the applicant modified the plans to provide those.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. I want to be sure of that. So let me just ask the guys from Milburn and McBroom, anything you guys want to add to that conversation? All right. All right.
So if there's no, this is Darren from Ilona McBroom, if there's no further discussion on that, I do have one item that I'd like to present to the commission tonight.
Yep, sure. I think we're at a point there. I kind of jumped in, Steve. Anything else before we go? Anything else, Steve, that you want to highlight for us?
No, I went through that stuff, so I'm all done for it now.
All right. Well, thank you very, very, very much. Okay, guys. Yes.
So I'm going to share my screen to just go over a plan briefly. So can everybody see that plan?
Yep.
Yes.
I can.
So this is the August 19th plan that was submitted last Wednesday, and I'm just drawing your attention to this discharge. As Steve had mentioned, we had this coming out at about 90 degrees before and discharging here in our earlier design. We turned it to be more parallel, but when we did that, we inadvertently pushed it into the wetland here and created an additional wetland disturbance on that plan that is unnecessary. So we've gone back and taken a look at this, and we believe we can pull this back and avoid that disturbance and still achieve all of the goals that were recommended by Steve, and avoid that additional disturbance. We can actually stay within about the fence line here and the mowed lawn area with this, adjacent to the outfield of the baseball field. So I'll switch now to the plan. Does everybody see this 8.5 by 11 plan?
Yes. Yep.
So here we had the discharge and the riprap all the way out here in the wetland, and you can see we pull the grades back. We achieve the same thing: shorten the pipe, the flared end. We still have the riprap plunge pool, and we actually have the ability to plant a more thickly vegetated strip here before that overflow actually gets to the wetlands. You see, here's the existing fence line, so we're not very far from that. So I'd like to propose this as a modification to the plans that we submitted on Wednesday, because I believe this is a better design, and it also gets us back to the same level of wetland disturbance we had in prior plans.
All right. Hey, Jim, any, from your review of these plans from August 19th, something that you would like to highlight for us and the applicant?
Yes, and I'd actually like to just respond to what Darren just showed in that last drawing. I think pulling it out of the wetland is beneficial. My concern would be it's pretty close to the Carex trichocarpia. So I would be concerned that, and I think vegetating that with native species is a good idea. But I think that area should be included in the wetland monitoring and invasive, so that we don't get any new invasives, say for instance, Phragmites or reed canary grass close to the Carex trichocarpa that could affect it. So it just, I would highlight that. It's as I have said before, you know, disturbed soils attract invasive plants. So it just needs to be monitored until it's well established with native species. And so, and I don't know, Darren, if Matt or someone else has come up with what they would propose for planting there, whether it would be seeding or plants. It would be, I'd be interested to know what, how that's going to be vegetated.
Aaron, can you just put that back up again? Because what you were showing, that change. So that's what you were saying, Jim. There's some riprap, and then it's just things called vegetated filter strip.
Right. And Darren, do you know how close that is to the Carex trichocarpa?
So this shaded area right here is the protected species.
Correct.
So this is probably about a 10-foot separation here.
Okay. Okay. So I would assume you'd have silt vents between the Carex trichocarpa and the riprap during construction.
Yes, we're going to need to modify our ENS plan accordingly to wrap that around here as well.
Okay, so I think that area just needs to be paid attention to in the monitoring plan, and also during construction. Obviously, we don't want sediment into the Carex. I'm not quite sure. The grades look pretty flat in there, so it's probably not likely.
Yes, the grades are very flat here, and I would propose to probably use one of the Filtrex stocks along here to have that staked in, and probably put some sediment filter fence I think we have it doubled up along here, along this wetland boundary.
Okay. Okay. I think the ENS detail there would be important, and also monitoring post-construction in the 3-year monitoring, which would lead me to my overall review of the plan set. But if the commission has any questions about this area, and I guess Darren or Matt, do you have any proposed way of vegetating that filter strip?
This is Matt Sanford for the record with Malone and Broom. We will prepare a similar plan as we have for the rest of the restoration areas of wetlands. I would at this time, I would say that it would probably consist of a combination of both herbaceous plugs and woody vegetation, obviously all native species, but we will modify that and add that to the landscape plan.
Okay, and I would just, you probably know this, Matt, too, but I often use at the limit of a splash pad, I often use Juncus effusus. Yep. Because it's so vigorous
and durable.
Durable and stabilizing while seed is taking. So and it's also not it's not rhizomatous, so it's not going to spread into the hairy fruited sedge.
I agree.
Jim, what's that stuff again?
It's called soft rush. Is the common name. Juncus effusus.
Okay.
EFFUSUS.
Yeah. My 9th grade Latin is coming back. So.
It's a great soil stabilizer, and it can take wet and it can take drought conditions. It's a very hardy plant and adaptable.
Right. All right, again, for my colleagues, questions for Jim or anything that Jim shared with us, or Matt?
I could also comment on the planting plan if you wish.
Yeah, sure, please.
I focused on site plan landscaping D1.30, which I think is page 5 in the plan set. And it has a section in the upper left on planting notes, and then invasive species management notes. I've looked at all the call outs and they're appropriate. The one I would, and the invasive species management notes are appropriate, and they have added something that a couple things. The 3 things that were my emphasis. One is protection of the Carex trichocarpa, which they are doing. The other was invasive species management, which this series of notes does. And then the other was wetland mitigation. And they've addressed my comments there. One of those comments was a monitoring plan, and that's number 5 in the invasive species management notes. Now that I have seen that fleshed out, the one thing that I would suggest is, and I did mention this before, and that is, I think I mentioned it verbally, and that was, how will this be handed off to the school landscape crew or maintenance department after the monitoring is done in year 3? And there are different ways of doing it, but one that I suggest that would kind of piggyback on the monitoring plan would be in year 3, when the monitoring is done, that the biologists doing the monitoring do a walk down with the responsible people at the school. In other words, just walk around the site, the wetlands areas, answer any questions, and point out what needs to happen going forward to manage these wetlands. And then, in addition, the year 3 report include recommendations to the school for long-term management. It might be mow certain areas once a year in the fall, or it might be control these invasive species, look out for purple leucocide. And so the biologists prepare a series of recommendations and then go over them with the landscape crew in that walk down. So it could be an additional note, or it could be a modification of that note. And there may be other options that would work better for the school. That's just one way of making the handoff to the school.
Hey, TikTok, I just want to show you something. These are what they're using in the...
Oh, I don't know what that is. Doesn't sound good, but.
So
Alrighty, did we?
I'm happy to take any questions or.
No, I don't think I have any right now. Let me, for the commissioners, questions for Jim?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I don't know that this is really Jim's expertise, but these notes about, I like your idea of the handoff and the notes for the town crews, but what effect is this going to have on the box turtle habitat or on the rare butterfly habitat? It's one of 3 in Connecticut, or hairy sedge, or like their expert explained, we should have a full season of or a full year of monitoring of these things. What do we do about any of that stuff?
Well, I think Eric addressed the box turtle issue, and made recommendations regarding that. And we have protection for the Carex trichocarpa during construction, and Malone and McBroom is working with Deep in terms of what the long-term plan will be. I will say about the sedge is that it is a hardy sedge. It is vigorous. So I'm as long as you keep invasives out and don't do excessive trampling on it, I'm not worried about Carex trichocarpa. It persists where it's happy, and this is one of those places where it's happy. In terms of a year-long or a year-round botanical survey, that's typically not the standard for this kind of development. It would be more for like a land trust parcel or a conservation area. What I looked at is within the limit of disturbance. What are the wetlands within the limit of disturbance that would be impacted by the proposal? The wetlands in the woods upstream and downstream are stable, and as long as the as Steve Trinkus has said, as long as we're managing the flow and not causing erosion, that they should, whatever species are there, should be fine. So my focus was on the limits of disturbance, the activity area, and the wetlands in those areas have been managed and modified, and so we could look at the stream daylighting as a form of restoration in to compensate for the area that's being filled. And I think Eric Davison has addressed that. So I think the measures are appropriate for these perimeter wetlands that are in an actively used schoolyard.
Okay.
Jim, I do have a question for you. Again, thinking about the the wetlands enhancement area for the plantings and the management and the maintenance of it. Again, I'm thinking about I mean, my question comes from like level of effort, you know, to keep that, you know, to keep that design current. Do you have any references, you know, I mean, to keep that, you know, that stream area, the, you know, into its design? Is that something that is like 100 or 200 hours a year, or 400 or 500 hours a year? I mean, I'm thinking, before you answer, I'm thinking, like I said, I kind of remember, we may have talked about this before, like the High Line, you know, the High Line is full of, you know, native plants. And you know, one of the things that they have to do is there's an enormous amount of effort, you know, to keep those plants growing correctly and keeping invasives out. Do you have any experience or any other project that you're aware of that would allow you to give some, again, very rough, you know, very rough level of effort to maintain this? Like I said, is it a man month's worth of work or 5 man months? Do you have any background that could shed any light on that?
Well, certainly. And I mean, we could look at BJ's, which I was involved in the monitoring oversight.
I'm thinking about to keep it up, right? I mean, to manage the plants and keep the invasives out, and you know, I mean, I'm just, that's you know, it's kind of an ongoing thing that the town is taking on here, you know, essentially for a long time.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at what the school staff is doing now. I mean, there are wetlands now, and there are invasives in the wetlands now. It's a mix of natives and invasive species. We can't long-term keep every single invasive out without extensive effort. What we want to do, and I guess professionally, 3 years for a relatively small wetland area is sufficient for it to get established. If we're doing multi-acre wetlands, you know, large wetlands, when I do projects with the Army Corps, well, they have 5 years of monitoring. And the larger it is and more involved it is, the more effort can be involved in monitoring it. So it really, the key is good construction, getting the hydrology right, and managing the invasives up front. So I always find the first year critical. And I'm not sure, even though there's 3 years of monitoring, I would emphasize the first year as being the most important, that there be multiple monitoring events and remediation as needed. And sometimes that can be when they're small plants, you hand pull the invasives before they get established. And so whoever's doing the monitoring has to have the resources.
Yeah, but true. But do you have any, I mean, is this like, you know, they do it 4 times a season, you know, 2 days a week, 8 days, or do you have any, you know, or is this a month's worth of work, or do you have
it's
any?
not, no, it's much less than that.
Okay.
It could be done in 3 to 4 visits, and then either the biologist could do it if it's small. Sometimes if I see, you know, a half a dozen invasive plants, I pull them as I'm walking through. Or if it's more extensive, you might have to call in some labor and point out and flag and say we need these removed.
But it sounds like the ongoing monitoring and maintenance of this is not a big endeavor. This is not 500 hours a year, or this is rather modest, right? Whether it's 100 hours or something in that neighborhood, it's not 3 guys for 2 months or anything like that, right?
Right, correct. And the key thing here is when wetland native plantings are designed, the intention is to establish habitats and not a garden. So if we're doing garden design, you care about each individual plant. It's 3 feet apart or 4 feet apart. You prune every shrub to look symmetrical. And that's not how nature is. That's not how the wild is. So we're trying to create a natural thing. Now, you might do some selective pruning if you have a broken branch that's falling into the schoolyard. Certainly you do. But that's kind of a managed thing. It's not like pruning a hedge and pruning every shrub. So it's a limited amount of effort, and some of it, what I find when I do these designs, some of it is client education. In this case, the client is the school, the teachers, the students. And some of the education is, this is a natural system. This has got some wildness to it, and that's what attracts wildlife. So if you make it too manicured, you're actually defeating the purpose of having a wild place.
Okay, well, thank you. That's really, really, really helpful. Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Michael, Dave, John, for Steve?
I'm all set.
Okay.
Comfortable.
So Darren, just let me ask again, in terms of considering that little modification that you showed us there for that drainage, what's the final filled wetlands square foot number?
4,550 square feet.
4,550?
Yes.
Wait, say that again. 4,000 or 1,000?
4,550 square feet.
About a quarter of an acre. Is that right?
Majority of that being for the modification of the outlet for the stream channel that's piped through the property.
And it's wetland 4, right? That essentially gets filled in.
That's correct.
And what's wetland 4 again? Do you guys have that of the 4,550 filled wetlands? How much is wetland 4 in your current?
I believe it's 600 square feet. But Darren, do you want to pull up the grading plan just to confirm? Where's the 900?
So this is the table that's shown on the plans that breaks down the direct wetland impacts by wetland.
So it's 930 square feet is wetland 4.
I'm not sharing it to the rest of us if he's trying to.
Screen's not being shared.
What happened? Oh, yeah, I forgot to hit share. Sorry.
That's never happened before, Darren. So.
So I think this is a good table that provides the breakdown for each one of the activities. But wetland 4 is 930 square feet.
All right. Thank you for that.
Sure.
All right. Do you guys have anything else for us? Otherwise, again, I'd like to move to if there are members of other people on the phone here, members of the public that have questions for things they've heard. Is everyone all right? We go there or? All right. So again, for those of you who are on the phone here and interested in this project, this is an opportunity during this public hearing. If you've heard anything either tonight or anything you've read or heard previously, if you still have a question, we'd like to give you the opportunity to ask that question. If it's a process question, probably the commission can answer it. If it's a question about wetlands or the plan, probably the applicant, would probably field that. So if there are any questions, we're looking for people saying something or putting up your hand. We're looking for a chat. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not seeing any hands. I
Great.
don't see anything in the chat. All right. So I'm guessing there are no questions. I make note too, we didn't get any, I probably should have done this at the very beginning. I didn't see any additional sort of written correspondence from anyone in the public in the, in the agenda. So with that, like I said, if we're going to move now to, like I said, probably the next part for public participation we'll ask for comments pro and then I'll ask for comments con. So is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor of this application? I don't see any comments. I don't see any hands. I don't hear anything. All right. Is anyone on the phone who'd like to speak in opposition to this application?
I see none.
I don't see anyone. Steve, Jim, and I know Eric is not here. Is there, do you feel like you've had enough time to take a look at the 819 plans?
Yes, I did. I had time over the weekend.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Okay. All right. I don't know you guys, I'm sort of heading in the direction. Is there anything open from the commission and these guys and over toward the applicant, anything open that you guys think we might need more time on?
So I have a question, Ms. Fox, if I may.
Yep.
Maybe I missed something. You're filling in or disturbing 4,550 square feet of wetlands. How many wetlands are you creating? How many square foot of wetlands are you creating or giving back?
So in terms of, this is Matt Sanford for the record, in terms of the actual mitigation plan, we have a three-tiered approach. The first one is the daylighting of an existing boxed watercourse. That square footage is roughly 1,000 square feet of creation. The other two components of the restoration are actually enhancement areas. So it's taking wetlands that are currently being disturbed by existing maintenance practices, and actually enhancing those particular wetlands. The square footage for those are the following. Wetland enhancement area number 1, which is in wetland 6. The southernmost wetland is 14,365 square feet. Wetland enhancement area number 2, which is wetland 3, so the west side of the proposed school, is 6,815 square feet. So if we total all the wetland enhancement opportunities here, or mitigation that's proposed, it's roughly 22,180 square feet of either creation and or enhancement.
Well, so there's 1,000 square feet of creation.
Correct.
But the creation is the opening of the stream.
Correct. So again, one of the things I had presented as part of the testimony was that when we look at wetland mitigation can take on several forms based on the site's conditions and based on the different parameters that we have out there. Again, looking at disturbance in existing wetlands, are we able to actually provide enhancement to existing wetlands is an acceptable mitigation opportunity. So again, what I talked about is there's really a couple different parameters. There's preservation is one criteria that federal and state and local land use agencies look at. The second one is creation, which is where you're actually creating a wetland. The third one is enhancement. And sometimes we call a fourth one is more just restoration. So in this case, we're incorporating 2 out of the 4 that I mentioned, which is enhancement and creation. And again, if you look at the numbers, in terms of the total mitigation package that we have here, it's in well of excess of 4 to 1, which is that's a high number. When we look at most of the applications and projects that are done across the state of Connecticut, you're typically looking at mitigation ratios of either 2 to 1, 1 to 1, 2 to 1, or 3 to 1. So, and that again includes a combination creation, enhancement, and restoration. and preservation. So the proposal that we have before you, we believe is an acceptable mitigation package for the wetlands that we have on this site in terms of the disturbance that's been out there, and in terms of the wetlands that are being impacted, which again, I think we've talked about, is a lot of these are man-made disturbed wetlands. We're taking areas of wetlands that are currently disturbed and enhancing them and increasing the biodiversity and the functional capacity of those wetlands that are to remain on the site. So
I appreciate your take on that from your various trials and tribulations around the state. I'm discussing what we in Brookfield ask for. And typically we're in the 2-1, right, to the double ratio. Is that about right, Sharon, of created wetlands? We have always asked for.
I would want to check. I would want to check that, whether it's because we don't actually do it that often. We don't have to do it that often.
It's very rare that we do it. I agree.
Yeah,
When we do,
it almost never happens. So I think it's a very, here in Brookfield, it's a rather small sample
less than
size.
once a year, I would say, in the last.
Yeah. I think that, but I think the other aspect is, like I said, creation. There's a difference between creation, restoration, and enhancement compared to fill. So, I think they can all be taken into consideration, but there is a big difference in those three types that Matt was talking about. So
I agree that there's a big difference. That's why I was asking you if my memory was correct.
I think the one project that we did recently was where we had to do that fire road, which was the wetlands from Steel River. And that was like, it was something like 1,000 feet, and they were able to recreate, it was upwards of 3,500, 4,000. Yeah.
And that's creation. That's typically the very few times that we do this. We in Brookfield have been focusing on creation.
Recreation of
ratio of wetlands. So do we have anything on this project, Matt, where we can create, or an adjoining parcel that the town may own, where we can create 8,000 or 9,000 square feet of wetlands? Viable.
On this particular parcel, I would say that we're limited in the capacity to create additional wetlands, given the existing site topography, specifically to the west, which all slopes down towards the proposed school. And the area to the east of the proposed parking lot, as proposed, wouldn't be conducive from a hydrologic standpoint and our watershed contribution standpoint to support wetlands. Offsite, we have not looked at offsite opportunities at this time.
This is James Cowan for the record. Just kind of going back to the previous comment, creating more wetlands on site would have a negative impact on box turtles because they need upland, they need woods, they need fields. And so to the extent they are in the area, they're not out in the athletic fields. They would be in the wooded, shrubby areas, old field areas. And so those are important for box turtle. So that would also be a limiting factor.
But the fields that they're asking us to allow them to get rid of,
right?
You're saying is where the
they don't have anymore.
Have it both ways. I'm confused.
Well, I'm not saying the box turtles wouldn't be using the athletic fields. I think you'll find that in Eric's report, Eric Davison's report. So, but to try to create wetlands.
And by the way, I do agree. This site would be very limited for the ability to add wetlands. That's why I specifically asked about adjacent parcels and or other town-owned parcels. But I think ideally adjacent parcels would be what I would think would be more ideal. I don't want to speak. Certainly, I don't speak for the entire commission. And maybe I speak for myself alone. That's okay too.
I'm not, well, I'm not sure about that, Mark. I'm very interested in that. And I think I've made some comments along those lines in these meetings. So, all right. Anything else, Michael, John, Dave?
Can't think of anything else.
All right. Well, I said if there isn't anything else, I am thinking that we are at a point. I said, that we can reasonably, close the hearing. The applicant did give us an extension, and again, guys, I cannot thank you enough. I said we certainly didn't anticipate a power outage, and for many of us, an internet outage that would extend that long. So again, just many thanks for being accommodating there. So I'm thinking we're at a point. I said we can reasonably close this hearing. So
That's fine.
So, Ms. Fox, if we close the hearing, we no longer can get new information as to if we were trying to add wetlands, even if it was on adjacent parcel, or would that still be possible?
I think that depends on, the answer is, let me ask the applicant. I mean, you've heard what Mr. Mulvaney has said. You've heard what I have said, in previous meetings. Do you want some opportunities to take a look at that?
So the only adjacent parcel would be Erickson Farm, which has a pretty large stand of wooded natural wetlands that are out there. Matt would know better than I would, but I don't know what benefit it would create to add wetlands over there, but that's certainly the adjacent parcel. I don't know if there's anything further we need to investigate in regards to that. I have the wetland enhancement plan that I could put back on the screen for what we were doing, which outlines the areas where we're doing the improvements in the stream channel restoration, which basically shows more of a graphical image of what Matt was quantifying. I couldn't find it while he was talking, but I can set up on.
You never can. So.
You certainly don't hold that against anyone.
No, I can't. So, well, I mean, we have that information, that information is in the, in it, and I have looked at it. I think all the commission members have looked at it. So, and you guys have been very good about explaining what we should be, what we should be focusing in on, or what you think we should be focusing in on.
So, I mean, our thoughts in this were that, there was once a natural stream through here that got filled years ago. We went through a very detailed analysis to try and minimize the impacts, but there were some that were inevitable, particularly around this outlet here, which had been previously disturbed. So that was part of the thinking in the stream channel restoration here. Matt and I talked this over extensively, and we thought that was the largest benefit. And then secondarily, the enhancement, the majority of what's been done here is really in the mowed lawn area that is wetland soil, but prior to this application, we're probably not identified as wetland soils, so we're continuing to be mowed as lawn. Probably wet during the spring months, but then you wouldn't even notice it because it's all mowed. You wouldn't see any wetland vegetation. So we thought this was a significant enhancement too, which basically creates more buffering to that central stream channel here as it leaves the site. So not being familiar with the standards of what you all normally do for wetland creation, we worked carefully to put this together for what we thought was the best mitigation strategy. And Matt has talked with Eric about that as well. I don't know that there's much more that we can do as far as design here. If the commission feels that they would like more wetlands enhancement, I think that can be achieved on the Erickson Farm parcel. If that's needed to get an approval on the project, then that could be a condition that we could look at afterwards.
Well, so my line of thinking is as we've pointed out numerous times, very infrequently do we allow destruction of wetlands or filling of wetlands. The very few times we've done it, we've never had I can confidently say never had less, and always have had quite a bit more created than was filled. So I look at a three-tiered system of my criteria of 1, recreate them on the property. 2 would be recreate them in an adjacent property. And 3, worst case scenario, would be recreate them somewhere else that made sense. It's just
Or
my,
four, conceivably change the design a little bit and have less of it.
Well, that I guess is number 1. You're right. Number 1 is change the design to have less or no filling of wetlands. It appears that we've moved beyond that in this project, and I'm not sure how that can seem to get glossed over that easily. But yeah, that right, Sharon, that would be number 1, and then the other 3 would be on site, adjacent site, or somewhere else. That's where I'm going with it. That's my thoughts on it.
So number 1, I believe in the 8 to 10 months we've been working on this, we've exhausted the options. It's gone up and down the line from, initial assessments with our own biologists and botanists to involvement of town staff as well as your third-party consultants to involvement of the construction manager when they come on board in the project, and also the owner's representative in Arcadis. So we have a lot of people involved in this, a lot of people looking at what options we have with these site constraints, recognizing, as I've said before, we've got to try and fit a new school in while keeping the old school in operation. And that's, I think we've managed this as best we could. We've presented the alternatives, and I think we've exhausted all the options in number 1. We've looked at mitigation on the site that's meaningful. With the area we have to work with, it doesn't make sense to clear trees to try and expand the wetland boundaries in my mind. But if the commission feels that this isn't adequate, the Erickson Farm parcel is adjacent, and we could look at options with your consultant or as part of a condition if that's necessary.
All right, well, thank you.
Have at this point.
I don't know how we do that as a condition. That seems to be a kind of a big pill to swallow as a condition, but I'll think about that.
I'm wondering if we have the wrong audience for this discussion. The farm, which is the property to the south, if I'm correct, is town property, and I don't believe we have a representative of the town. And the group that's here from the architects and engineers who designed this may not be aware of what the town is planning for that property. I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm just wondering if we're talking to the right people, if we're looking to see if it can be done.
You might be right, Mr. Newstead. I was looking at their original application and had used that parcel as part of this project. So you're right. I may have wrongly assumed that they had some sort of information on that project, since they have looked at that for a number of months or possibly.
All right. I'm not aware of that. I was just questioning, I'm not stating it.
Yeah, ideally in a situation like this, an option would be fee in lieu of to be able to do that wetland enhancement or restoration somewhere else in town, where it would be meaningful. Unfortunately, the laws in Connecticut don't really allow a local agency to do that. It's only at the state and federal level, and even the DEP doesn't have that in place yet. Only the Army Corps does that.
Could you repeat that, please?
So in some situations where you have no other options, and recognizing that this is a public project and there's a public need that serves a benefit for the whole town, if you don't have the option to do the mitigation, what you mentioned was looking at other sites in town. The simplest way to approach that would be to collect some sort of a fee in lieu of, in order to put that in a fund if one was established, and look at on a whole as throughout the town for meaningful restoration areas. It's my understanding that there's no vehicle to do that on a local or even a state level in Connecticut, and it's only the Army Corps that collects fee in lieu of as part of wetland disturbance for their permitting. So I wish there were opportunities here on the site as part of this project. I believe we vetted all the options. Even the stream channel opening of part of that was a difficult discussion, recognizing that it ends up right in front of the school. So we've done a lot of enhancement to that to try and mimic the existing stream channel and make that an attractive natural feature.
Well, I would note that you are moving it from where it was before. You're not putting it back. You're not reopening it in the spot and type where it was. You are moving it, but creating a stream. Yes, I see that, and I do like it there. It's a great feature, and hopefully the kids can learn from it. But it's not the original natural stream. Let's not pull punches on that.
Yeah, it's hard to say. We went back and looked at the historic aerials on this, and yeah, the 70s showing it where it was relocated and piped, but the older aerials beyond that, it's difficult to see.
Right.
And it's an old farm property also.
Yeah, from what I see back then, it could have possibly been a big old marsh back there or something.
Yeah, it's hard to tell where that channel was. Unfortunately, there isn't any good records of it.
Yep.
And those aerials even show it was manipulated to the south of this as well.
Thinking about it, I know there was a whole bunch of photography done in Connecticut. What was it, 1920 or something like that? Somebody flew all over Connecticut and took a lot of pictures. I remember seeing an article about that and looking at some of the pictures. It was something like that, 1920, 1915. Somebody had a plane flew all over. So,
was that in conjunction with creating Candlewood Lake?
I don't remember all the details, but as Darren was talking about it, it just reminded me of it. And then maybe some of the pictures that they were able to find, but that's a long ago. So, All right, everybody. I said, Mark, Michael, anything else from the applicant? You guys feel like we're at a point where we can close it? This is a question for the applicant.
I feel like we've exhausted all our options here, and I believe we've addressed all the concerns of the third-party reviewers. I feel like we're sort of at that point.
Okay. Can I just poll the commissioners? You guys feel like we're at that point?
Yeah.
All right. Well, someone want to make a motion then to close the hearing?
So moved.
For the record, I do not feel like we're there.
Okay. Take that back.
All
nope,
right.
You can continue with the motion. I just
All right, then I would
spoken quick enough.
make a motion, and we can still discuss this, but I would make a motion that we close the public hearing for 100 Candlewood Lake Road, number W-20-24. Does it need anything else?
Nope.
The motion, okay.
I'll second that.
All right. And so any discussion on the motion? All right. Well, then let me call a motion. All those in favor of closing the public hearing, aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
One opposed? All right. Any abstentions? All right. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Steve.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Well, thank you all. We appreciate your time tonight.
And
All
thank
right.
you, everybody from Malone and Broom, for your hard work on this, too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for that.
Thank you. Be well, everybody.
All right, guys. Well, we have one more public hearing. It is now 10 of 10. So that's the good news. All right. So we're going to go now. We got another public hearing. It's 731 Federal Road. It's activity number W20-26. Let me go and get the, let me get my commentary here for, where did she put it? She said she put it, did she put it in the, I'm looking for my instructions about the hearing.
Oh,
And I see the Davidson comment, the Trinkus comment, the road site.
that was in the actual email.
Yeah.
Let me open my emails. It was an attachment in the email.
Yeah, it was in the commission, where did she put it? I know she said she put it in here, so I guess we gotta find it.
I have the document. Would you like me to share it to the screen?
Oh, do you? Oh, perfect. Great. Yeah, that.
That's easy.
Let's see.
I was gonna go back to my email here. 731. Please see the attached. Let me see. Maybe I found it.
Do you have it?
I don't know yet. No, I don't think so. No, if you got it up. No, I don't see it.
She has it up now.
All right, we hop back over there. All right, so for everyone, again, this is you get to read and see what we do here. So this is a regular meeting of the Brookfield Inland Wetlands Commission. At this point in our agenda, we've got a public hearing concerning the application for 731 Federal Road, application number W-20-26 for 2 mixed-use buildings with a drive-through and all the appropriate utilities, drainage drives, and parking. So first, let me introduce the members of the commission present here on Zoom. Again, my name is Sharon Fox. I act as the Commission Chairman. We have Mr. Michael Newstead, who is a regular member. We have Mr. Mark Mulvaney, who is our Vice Chairman. We also have Dr. John Donovan, who is a regular member, and Mr. Dave Frankel, who is an alternate. So there are 5 of us, so we'll all be voting members in this matter. Again, we'll call upon the Commission Secretary to read the legal notice of the hearing. So Mr. Hudeman is not with us this evening. Does anybody have that handy? Where did she, I know she gave it to me here.
So yeah.
Sorry, if I had it handy, I'd read it, but I don't, so.
Yeah.
Sharon, I can read the notice of public hearing
Okay,
if you want.
would you mind? So
Sure.
Yep.
The Inland Wetlands Commission of Brookfield, Connecticut will hold a public hearing at 7:15 remotely via Zoom on Monday, August 10th, August 24th on 731 Federal Road, number W-20-26 regarding 2 mixed-use buildings, including a drive-through with all the appropriate utilities, drainage drives, and parking. At this hearing, interested persons may appear and be heard, and written communications will be received. Said notices on file in the Brookfield Land Use Office.
All right, thank you, Alice.
Was that changed officially to August 24th?
Yes,
From August 10th?
Diane did that. Yep.
Okay, good. It's just legality.
Right.
Okay, so again, the application was formally received by the commission on June 22nd. The public hearing is only one aspect of the approval process and is for the purposes of accepting factual information. Data bearing on the application allow expression of opinion by interested parties. Subsequent to the hearing, the commission has 35 days in which to render a decision on the proposal. The final decision may be in the form of approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, or disapproved. After reading into the record the correspondence received by the commission relative to the application, will ask the applicant to present the application in detail. The chair will then entertain questions of clarification concerning the applicant's presentation. We'll then hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application, followed by those who are opposed. Following each side of the question, a period of rebuttal to each position will be allowed by the applicant. All questions and comments must be directed through the chair, and we're now referring to members of the public, as you are recognized, please state your name and addresses each time you speak so that your comments may be legally recorded. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. And again, we will be looking for you, on Zoom. So again, everyone will have the opportunity to ask questions and speak. So again, however, the commission is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application in view of the time constraints placed upon us. We ask your indulgence in not reiterating comments previously presented. So again, a question for the public and the applicant. Any questions about how we're going to proceed? All right, so now we'll ask the secretary to proceed with the reading of the correspondence. I didn't see any. I think all we have is the applicant and the third-party reviews. I didn't see anything from the public in any of this. Did anybody see anything that we should note?
There was one at the very beginning, before the public hearing opened. I can see if I can find it.
Yeah, let's see if you can find, where would it be?
It would have been.
There was something, wasn't there?
It would be in the meetings and agendas for the first one, I think. First meeting. Ugh.
Again, you can never look for something when someone's staring you over your shoulder here. So, all right. Well, look, I think I do remember something.
I'll find it while you're talking.
Yeah, let's see. So with that, so we think there's a piece of correspondence. So we'll see if Alice can find that. So I think now I think the instructions go. I think we're prepared to hear the applicant.
Oh, I did find it. It was on Thursday, July 9th. And should I read it? It's short.
Yeah, or just you don't have to read. If it's so long, we don't have to read it. Just make note of who sent it and that you've already mentioned the date.
From Mary Ellen Badaracco. Oh, no, it's actually from Ronald Demers, Demers. And it just says they are an abutting property owner residing at 156 Pocono Road. He has concerns as to the tremendous size of this project and the huge impact these impervious surfaces, such as building footprint and numerous parking spaces, will directly affect the flooding of my property.
Oh, okay. Thank you for finding that.
Sure. A consideration of a public hearing would be welcomed, as questions could then be asked regarding wetland setbacks, filling in wetlands, etc. Thank you for your time in considering my concerns. There is a little more, there's some pictures attached, but it shows water very close to their property or on their property, because they also have wetlands on their property.
Oh,
If I'm
okay. Well,
correct in memory that her property is directly across the Still River from this property.
Yes.
Yeah.
okay. All right. Well, thank you for remembering. Normally, it's pretty easy. We have a folder, and I get the folder, and in the folder is all the letters and is all the all the instructions. So we have to do things a little differently now. So thank you for that, Alice.
Sure.
So again, I think we are now at a point where we are prepared to hear the application. So again, I see this. If you would please, before you speak, just name and address. Do you guys why don't you guys take us through the application?
Sure. Good evening. For the record, Dinas Verbakis, professional engineer with Artel Engineering Group here in Brookfield, Connecticut. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant to continue the public hearing for 731 Federal Road. Just as a synopsis, the property is about 7.3 acres in size, located just to the north of the Super 7 off-ramp and intersection with Federal Road, and across the street from Laurel Hill Road. The property is currently vacant, wooded, has been delineated by Jim McManus with respect to wetlands, has been reviewed and analyzed by our consultants as well as the town consultants. As an overview for the project, there are 2 buildings proposed on the site. about 1,920 square foot drive-through coffee shop is anticipated at the south end of the site, and a 22,000 square foot retail building with residential units above is proposed in the mid to northern section of the property. Associated with this will be 164 parking spaces dispersed throughout the property. Access to the property will be via driveway directly across the street from Laurel Hill Road, and then one further to the north across the street from Old New Milford Road, or excuse me, Old Pearl Road. As proposed, the site will impact roughly 8,313 square feet of wetlands. Of that, good portion of it is stabilizing discharges from storm drainage associated with Federal Road that currently occur. But what we're proposing to do is extend the discharges through our property and to the Still River so that we may develop our property as proposed. But to be fair, we are increasing impervious cover, and we will be contributing also to that stormwater runoff. And to that end, we've worked closely with your engineering consultants and have made modifications to the plan to, again, stabilize our discharge points and help treat the runoff, clarify it with such measures such as a deep sump basin, about 4 feet deep, which will help slow down velocities of waters and help settle out any sediments that may be carried in those waters. And associated with that clarifying basin, we'll also be proposing a wet swale that's roughly 20 feet wide, give or take, that runs in the southerly direction and then it sets itself in between two wetland fingers on the property and discharges ultimately to the Still River. And it discharges rather low on the embankment so that we are maintaining slower velocities and keeping the embankment intact and not creating erosion of any of the soils on site. And that having been said, just with our proposed stormwater management and water quality elements that are being proposed at the southern end of the site, we'll be creating roughly 15,000 square feet of wetland type areas to help mitigate and compensate for the 8,300 square feet or so of wetlands disturbance that we're proposing in association with stabilization of the current discharges on the site. With us tonight, we've got Jody Chase, ecologist, that can help answer any questions the commission may have with respect to that. We also have Abigail Adams, who has prepared an extensive landscape plan for the site. And I can go over plans, put them on the screen if the commission wishes. But to the end of what we've done, I think we've addressed comments by town consultants, and I guess we can put it forth to maybe commission questions or additional testimony by our consultants.
All right. So I see we have I'm just looking at the agenda here. So you've got a whole new set of plans here I see that are dated 8/19.
Yes.
Okay. They're not the ones that are articulated above in that agenda. Those are the original ones, right? That's the way
I
she did
can
it.
I, I can share my screen
Yeah.
and show you or go through some of the modifications that were made if you wish.
Yeah, well, no, I was mostly just trying to orient myself to, I said, for what we have. Like I said, normally it's pretty easy, as you know. We have one pile here and then there's a new pile. And it's very easy. It's
I
not so
have
easy
files galore
anymore.
here.
Yeah, it is. It is not so easy anymore. So I said we don't have. Steve, I'm just looking at your note here from Wednesday the 19th. This is from your review of. I'm looking at your note to Alice about 731 Federal Road. This is after your review of their August 19th plans. Is that the date on them?
Yeah, my letter was dated the 23rd and emailed Alice today.
Okay. Oh, yeah, we did get an after the fact.
Plans that I see on the agenda are dated 8/19. Are they the latest plans or have they been changed?
No, those are the latest plans. Yes.
Okay, so what I'm looking at from the agenda are what you're submitting.
Yes.
Okay. Steve, do you have that? Do you have that note handy, or Alice, do you have that note handy?
I don't. I'm not sure if it was an email note.
Let me look, see if I can find it again. Because this is your review of the 8/19 plans here.
Yeah, I have my letter of the 23rd.
Do you have? Oh, sorry, that was probably the one I meant to say.
Yeah, no, I can go over the change. We had
Yeah.
between Alice, myself, the applicant, and Dinus, we met at town hall, I think twice since the initial hearing. One of the changes Dinus didn't mention was, I guess in the northern end of the site, there is an endangered plant species, and that northernmost parking area was around 5 to 8 feet from the plants. So we discussed shifting the parking, rotating it basically towards the east. And Dinus was able to do that. I think he maybe lost 3 or 4 spaces. Correct me if I'm off. But now we have from the proposed retaining wall a 38-foot setback instead of about 8 foot to the endangered plant. So quite a bit farther away from that. As Dinus pointed out, there's 2 existing discharges which are up in the upland area, but obviously have eroded channels because that's how our DOT tends to work. And so these will be extended through the site to the retaining wall. And at both locations, there's going to be riprap outlet paths to slow the water down. But then it is a very broad grass, wet swale, 8 foot wide, 2 foot deep. And we're using boulder check dams, like 2 to 3 foot diameter rock, twice across the swale to ensure that the flows are slow going into the river. In addition, another point Dinus didn't mention is they did soil testing at my request, and the roof drains from both buildings can now go into the ground and provide groundwater recharge to the stream, when we're in a drier time of the year. So that runoff will go into the soil, ultimately drain to the river because that's where the topographic gradient takes it, and it will filter through the soil and ultimately provide base flow to the river. The southernmost swale, as Dinus mentioned, has a 4-bay, 4 foot deep. It will trap sediment and other things, and then it can fill up and then overflow an extremely flat swale. Again, as he pointed out, runs south and then does a U-turn and goes back north. The northern stream embankment is kind of steep. It kind of comes right up. So I suggested that they flatten the grading out to, not have the water, have a hard bank to erode into the river, but basically have a smoother transition. The swale will be over excavated, and 12 inches of a clay, highly organic soil will be placed in all the wet swales. and they'll be planted with wetland plants. So these will actually become wetland systems over time. That's the whole idea of the wet swale. They provide really good water quality. So not only do we treat the runoff from the proposed pavement, but we're also providing treatment of the 2 DOT discharges that currently have none. In addition, on the erosion control plan, instead of using silt fence and hay bales, which as an industry we kind of need to get away from, I recommended using Filtrex socks, or there's approved equals. They're basically a decomposable material filled with wood chips or compost that lay on the ground surface, and they're heavy enough that they actually flatten out so you don't have to trench it in, and you simply stake it. And the beauty is that you can leave these in place when you're done, and they will actually become vegetated as they decompose. So they're very effective barrier, with that. So as we've done similar to the other project that was north of this, the runoff from this site will be in the Still River before the rest of the watershed of the Still River gets to this point. So detention is not warranted here. Detention would compound flooding problems, because now you're delaying your peak and the rest of the peak of the watershed's coming down, and they add together. Whereas the runoff here will be from the pavement, will go through the wet swales into the Still River, heading north long before the peak out of Danbury gets to this point. And we're also addressing the water quality and groundwater recharge. So the improvements, are a big step up from the original plan from a water quality standpoint.
All right, thanks. Thank you, Steve. As I was looking, I did find that note, because I got an email from the land use office about 2:30 this afternoon, which we got 2 of them, one of which had your letter in it. And then Steve, we've got another one with a new landscaping plan. I think Michelle McCauley sent it along.
Yes, this is
So-
Dinas. We had,
Yeah, sorry, Dinas.
as our plans took a while to prepare, once we're done with our engineering end of it, we sent them to Abigail, our landscape consultant, who prepared them as quickly as possible, and we received them today for upload into the system. And certainly we can go over those with the commission if you wish, but they are just as bountiful as they were on the original application to the commission.
Yeah, we have the updated landscape plan, and then we also have a letter from today. It's dated today from Jim. This one is to Michelle. So we've got that, and then there's another one that we just got today, but this is the Jody Chase letter. So again, these came at like 2:45 today, and I can tell you I was working up until this meeting, so I haven't had a chance to really read any of these. So I don't know if my fellow commissioners have had a chance to read them. So I don't even know how to ask questions of them, Dinah. So I mean, I think I know we have an extension here, to today. I think what you guys gave us because of the storm. I'm kind of thinking you might want to. Could we consider an additional extension, at least give us a chance to read these things?
Madam Chairman, this is Anthony Luceri, applicant, 2 Old New Milford Road, Brookfield. Yes, we will prepare I'll do it verbally tonight, granting an extension, and I'll deliver a letter tomorrow.
Actually, I don't think he needs one, because the public hearing goes till September 14th at this point.
Oh, okay. That's good. Well, I wasn't really sure when the 35 days started. Didn't it start? Weren't we supposed to do it last?
August 10th would have been the first public hearing on this.
Yeah. Right. So, okay. So you're right. We don't actually need it today. You're right. I guess I misread the extension.
Yeah, it would be
letter.
at the next meeting, which is the 14th. So.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm with Chairman Fox on this. I didn't get a chance to read any of the stuff that came through today. I'm hoping that something speaks about a riparian buffer. Anybody notice anything on that, or want to talk about that maybe next week?
Consider, again, Anthony Lucero for the record, considering the hour and that you guys have had a very long meeting, I think that we will do better to pick this all up at your next meeting and give you an opportunity to read all of the correspondence that were delivered kind of at 12th hour. Hopefully we will not have any blackouts at that meeting. And
You and me both.
yeah. And
Thank you, Mr. Lucera. I appreciate it.
I think
We'll take that as the secret sauce.
We better to take a motion to continue this hearing and give everybody an opportunity.
I'm all for that. I'm happy to make that motion if, unless any of the other
Well,
commissioners.
it's still a question I think that Mark raises. I think that I'm interested in as well. I said, looking at, like I said, this is right on the Still River, and so there's, some things that I'll be very interested in understanding how you're trying to protect the river, protect the edges of the river, the habitats of animals that live in that river depend upon that, things like, and so I'll be interested in that, but I do appreciate it is getting late.
Before you go, I just want to mention a concern that I have, can be discussed at the next meeting. I don't think we can get into it today, but I did mention this the other day when we first started to discuss this, and it's flooding on the site. And I know, looking at your calculations, you used 1 year and 5 year and 10-year rainfall calculations based on statistics that are about 10 years old, done in 2010. And I've recently been reading some new statistics that have come out done this year that show a significant increase in Connecticut in the amount of rainfall to be expected in the 1 year, 5 year, and 10-year storm. And I would like to discuss that further as we get closer as we get to the next meeting.
Sure, we can talk about it
We'll
next meeting.
investigate that.
Okay.
All right. Well, again, I wanted to say to the applicant, I really, really, really appreciate your flexibility here. I said I did read your letter that it said you were extending it till today, so that's why I wanted to bring it up, to make sure we were all on the same page. But it does sound like we have at least till the next meeting, before we might run into any state-imposed timelines. I am keen to read the new material that we have today, and again, even Steve's letter, which he was kind enough to go over tonight. So. All right. Well, with that, I said, why don't we entertain? Yes. Well, let's entertain a motion to continue this public hearing to our next meeting, which is
September 14th. I'll make a motion that we continue the public hearing on 731 Federal Road, item W20-26, to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which I believe is September 14th.
And I'll second
I'll
that.
second that.
Oh, go ahead.
okay. Well, Dave seconded that. Any discussion on that motion?
Okay.
Again, I think Dave did second that. Any discussion on that? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? All right. And again, to the applicant, and Tony, again, really appreciate your consideration here. We really do.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's move on to our agenda then.
We're gonna say goodnight then. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
All righty, guys. The only thing I'm scrolling down through here, minutes. Does anybody want to do the minutes from our last meeting, or wait till next week?
I would wait till next week.
Our next
Wait
meeting.
till
sorry,
next week, please.
Our next meeting. Sorry, I said that wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to push the meetings from July 27th. Again, the hour is late. Discussion topics. Those are two things that are still on our minds. And then I think that's it, guys.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. I think that was Dave jumped in there, shouted.
Michael, but that's all right.
Perfect. All right.
No, you can put Michael in. That's okay.
Yeah, I got this. No problem.
All right.
Thank
Again,
you.
Thank you, everyone. We will, let's see. So let me just call the motion. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Our meeting is adjourned. Again, thank you, everyone. It was a long
Go
meeting.
home, Alice.